Okay, so today I'll be looking at Super Seducer for the first time, and it's one of those sort of gimmick meme games that's, obviously because of its subject matter, but also because like some big streamers played it like XQC and stuff for a period of time. So it's just one of those kind of almost gimmick bait, streamer bait type of games. Whether it's actually good or not, I don't know. But before I do that, this is going to be one of my like infamously long intros where I'll sort of go back into my debate format self and almost an excuse to do that. Like I haven't brought back my debate format officially from back, like 10 years ago when I used to do it, but it'll sort of creep into my intros or my other streams somehow where I'll go on these tangents or into some of these topics. So this is the perfect opportunity to do it, I guess. And I guess today's stream is also like a affiliate anniversary type of thing, which they didn't have last year because technically it's my second anniversary here on this channel. I had done one, I'd gotten it in like February 2021 or 2022, I mean, but there was no feature like that last year. But here it let you sort of choose a day. So it was somewhere in February that I got it for the first time, but it wasn't like today, but it said you can choose like any day of the month to celebrate it. So I chose today, whatever, as like a love letter to streaming, Valentine's Day, but whatever. So that'll just show up, I guess, on here. But no, I'll play this because I couldn't really decide what to play because this is my whatever Wednesday format, the like episode 5 or 6 of its return since I finished my little Paladin's Permadeath Gauntlet. So every Wednesday I've been playing sort of a random game. So the first couple I did like just chatting streams. Then I did Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail, which was kind of a crazy coincidence because it's just both of these cutesy Japanese popular games that I didn't know were related to each other, made by like the same company, but I just played them in sequence just because of that. Like I just avoided them because they were these cutesy Japanese type of games that I just hadn't played, not because I liked those sort of things or because I knew that they had anything to do with each other. Yeah, before we get into this, I'll do an extended intro where I talk about some of these subjects. So it's an interesting, good excuse to do it Valentine's Day, whatever. And so let me think how to frame this, okay? So there's a lot of things. Okay, the first thing that comes to mind is sort of the down bad syndrome that I talk about. You see this a lot on the internet in general. You see it on big streamers in their chat. You see it even in their behavior. You see it in YouTube comments and things like this. So what does it actually mean? It means that any video you see, right, and we'll sort of take a side on this a little bit, but any video you see with like a remotely attractive, however you want to define that, female in it or whatever, usually that's the trope. It could be a guy, whatever, from the other direction. But whenever you see someone moderately attractive, that's what people focus on. So like it could be a lawyer, it could be a video about a medical condition, it could be a doctor talking, it could be about any random subject, but people will make it about that. So all the comments will be, wow, that's the most beautiful person I've ever seen, wow, she's so attractive. Like it could have nothing to do with that, but people still focus on it, right? It's one thing, okay, they're an actress, they're a model, so at least their looks have something to do with what they're something to do with the subject of their job or profession or the video, right? The content in some way. But no, it could have nothing to do with it, but people still make it about that. So it just shows you people are down bad for everything and everybody all the time. And it's like, I don't know. It just seems a little bit disturbing because people are almost doing it sort of ironically, like, oh, haha, that's so funny or that's so whatever, silly to do. But it just is kind of pathetic in a way. It's like, there's more to something, there's more to life than just focusing on that element. At least when that's not the focus of it. I can understand if, and this happens in streaming, just chatting, face cam stuff, even if it's not, it depends on, you can blame the audience for it. Like, you can feel like, oh, somebody gets so much credit and attention for those reasons, but that's part of the reason why I never do face cam, not because, oh, I would be playing into that myself, the Stimuli Acme element that I'll talk about in a second, redefining the term. But the point is, whether you're playing into that or not, that shouldn't be an element of it. So there's two elements that I always talk about. One is cult of personality, that you want to see their expressions and live vicariously through them. So that's one reason why people like to see face cam. But the other reason could be, yes, it's some attractiveness and things like that draws attention. So if you don't feel like people deserve that, then you don't have to watch them, rather than feeling like, this is the new standard and this is something that we take for granted. So let's go into some of these old school terms. So some of these terms were used in my debate format or actually created for it. mostly by me, but some of the other people in there played a role in that. And this is many, many years back. So I guess what I regret in my lack of enthusiasm in trying to recreate it, I just haven't had the will to do that, is I didn't appreciate so much the dedicated community that came with that. See, it's not that I was ever a big streamer or creator or anything, but that's one of the first forms of content I ever did online, was this debate format that I had, and I did like movie reviews and other things like that. But I didn't realize that, yes, it was still a small community, just like even now I have, some dedicated following, a couple viewers here and there, but it's like it was something different, because it was a certain type of person or a certain type of community that you were fostering by my own attitude and my own whatever style of doing things. So that had a certain value to it for sure. So sometimes it's not about the size of the community, it's about the quality of it or the intent behind it. But yeah, some of these terms I've used a lot over the years, and I'm going to sort of freestyle try to redefine them. So the Stimuli Acme refers to anything sort of sexual in nature, or at least how I interpret and use it, right, in effect. But let's break down, what does it mean, right? So the stimuli, just obviously like a stimulus, some sort of sensation or experience that you feel, and then acme obviously is like the highest level, like the peak of a mountain or whatever you want to call it. Like the acme is the highest form of something. So in this case, what it means is stimuli takes on the form of hedonism, or whatever the highest, best level of sensation is. So if we want to take it as hedonism and pleasure, and then we want to take the highest form of pleasure and say that that's sex or something sexual in nature, then we're going to say, okay, that's stimuli, and then the highest level of that is taken as sexual pleasure. So for example, that is a form of measurement. The best way I always use to describe it is it's like an extension on Sigmund Freud. The idea that he had ideas along the lines of, that are often misinterpreted and misrepresented too, but basically the idea that sex is an obsession of people and it plays a role in every area of their lives, and just it's all encompassing, right? So you see like little subliminal hints of it in all areas, not the least of which is society as a whole. The idea that, your whole sort of legal system and your whole lifestyle is often based around it. Like you get married and you have kids, and you have your white picket fence, and your whole monetary value is split in half, with a partner and all this kind of stuff. It's like, so just because you're having a relationship with them in that sense, a sexual sense, means that you have to have it in every other way too. Like it's all encompassing, like your life is all about that, right? So it's interesting to think about that way. But beyond that, there's some other notable examples to show sort of the obsession with it and the fixation with it in society. The idea that, we're starting with that, the sensation, the pleasure, the hedonism, and then you're going from that to, again, that's the highest level and that's the highest measure that people know in life. So therefore that defines their highest pursuit or their highest interest. And so beyond that point, this is really exactly a placeholder excuse just to do a just chatting thing. Maybe I won't even play the game. This will go on for the whole time. But no, I'll play it at least a little bit. There's got to be a permadeath first playthrough, so if we get stood up by somebody or we get rejected, that could be a failure state. We die and we can't play it anymore. And why do I get the feeling that this guy's gonna remind me of like Frank T.J. Mackey from fucking Magnolia, played by Tom Cruise? This is a pretty good movie, but it definitely... He's like a pickup artist, and there's all these kind of snake oil salesman clown type of people who always try to give you the answer for that. But it's like, the real answer is, if you really want something like that, it's not that hard to do, in the sense that, you could commit to, you really want to appease somebody, and you do everything they want, and you just go out of your way and over the top. But it's like, that's sort of the conflict, that people don't really know what they want, in a sense, to the extent that, hey Nightmare, how's it going? They don't really know what they want. So here's sort of the self-awareness lesson. The idea that if you were able to... This music is perfect for this too. It's just like a just chatting 1 hour intro that we're gonna fucking do. This is an excuse to talk about these subjects. The point is that people have to define for themselves what they want before they go into a situation like that. So because they don't, that's why you see such high divorce rates and things like that. It's like they don't know themselves what they want, so then they get into a situation and then they... Botez, what about her? The idea that... what do you call it? They don't define themselves what they want, and so therefore they have issues with it. So like, okay, you're with somebody because of their money, but then you cheat on them because you want something else out of it. So you're the one who didn't properly define your measure or what you were after, so then there's some conflict with it. If you define for yourself like, okay, this is exactly what I want, and then I go after it, then at least you go in with more of a clear intention. But a lot of the time people don't know. She's in the game. Is she in the game? I had no idea. The girl on the right looks like her. I don't know if that's supposed to, it doesn't really look too much like her to me, but that would be an interesting cameo. Or I saw this thing that like Hikaru was in Billions, the TV show. All these chess players getting notoriety. Yeah, that is one example of the Stimuli Acme potentially benefiting a creator in a way that arguably they don't even intend themselves, but anytime you do face cam, you open the door to it. But yeah, okay, so we'll go through and define some of these terms here, which I did do a couple streams on this like last year, I think, where I did my whole recreation where I went through all my terms and everything. So I might actually look at that clip, but this is going to be a really weird kind of stream that I almost shouldn't have done. I shouldn't have pretended like I was going to play a game, because I almost don't even want to. You don't get paid for being the best chess player in the world. I mean, you get a lot of opportunities from it, though. Like, you know, you get world championship money, and you get sponsorships and things like that. So it depends how you define getting paid. Like, just not for existing as the best player, but you would think if you're the best player, you're obviously winning tournaments and things like that. So let's see, what was I saying? People have to define for themselves what they want. So if you really want to cater to somebody and be obsessed with them, that's one thing. But then there's like this half-assed dichotomy to it. It's like, oh, you want to be obsessed with them and be at their beck and call and this and that. But then it's like, oh, you're too clingy. And then if you're not, oh, you're not clingy enough, or you're not paying them enough attention. It's like you're splitting it between different things. Like you want one thing, let's say, which is, let's say the sexual element, whatever. But then you want to split that between everything else, and it's like a compromise. So then you have all these people always complaining about it, like, oh, you know, you don't even know yourself what you want, and you're sort of struggling with this halfway thing. Like, you have to put up with everything else so you get the one thing that you actually want. And so nobody feels bad for you that way, right? It's like lacking sense of responsibility. It's like you're the one who's choosing to be in that situation. If you don't like it, then don't do it, right? And that's the trade-off that you have to make. So you have to decide in that situation what you want, which is why casual encounters are arguably so common. Or let's go into one absolutist, elitist, victim blamer tendency that we talked about from before, which has kind of less to do with the sexual element, but it's like having kids, right? So somebody has kids and it's like, oh, we're poor and we're working so hard to put food on the table. Well, who the fuck told you to have kids then? That's your choice, that's your fault. So you deal with it. Nobody's gonna feel bad for you. Like, nobody forces you, generally speaking, to do that. And so therefore, that's your fault. You're a bad parent, then you're a bad person. You shouldn't have done it in a situation where you would use that as an excuse that, oh, boo-hoo, I have to struggle and I have to make money. It's like, it's not a struggle. What, you just couldn't keep it in your pants and you couldn't control yourself? This is like, people call me elitist victim blamer. Like, you can't, there's no sympathy for that. It's like the sanctity of life is so small to you that your pleasure was not enough to forego, that you could not be responsible and have it in a mature, responsible way when you really felt you were ready, whether it be financially or otherwise. So that is exactly the way to look at it. Like, it's a very big deal, but you're not treating it like that. You want to see girls already? Well, you might have to wait a while. So what else? I've been holding back this discussion for a long time, because I never get the chance to talk about things like this because I don't do my debate format anymore. But yeah, I almost shouldn't have done the category. I should have just done just chatting, but we'll get there in time. So the idea there is there's a certain responsibility that comes with that, and so somehow it's turned into a negative or positive. Like, oh, look at this hardworking mother of 10 who works so hard to put food on the table for their kids. But like, why did you have so many kids then? Like, nobody forced you to do that, but it's falsely framed as a positive then instead. I know it's tired talking about chess, or me talking about chess every day, but do you plan to be a grandmaster? Well, I plan to be many things. I plan to be the world's first 2900 this year, but that's not going to happen. But what I will say is this is an example of another one of my debate terms, the long form postulate. The idea that, like, I came back to streaming and playing chess in 2021, or basically the beginning of 2022, but it's like I'm still playing it now, and I'll still be, yeah, that's just on an inflated site, but still impressive nonetheless. 3400. But the idea is that I'm still playing it now, and I'll still be playing it in a couple years. So like when I do something, I don't do it halfway, unless it's my Dark Souls 2 playthrough, I guess, but for what that's worth. But no, like I'll still keep doing it. So I will be a 2200 FIDE player. I will be a FM, IM, something like that. Like it will happen. It's just a matter of time. And I think I finally realize now how much time it actually takes, which is, it's kind of encouraging and discouraging at the same time, because I don't want to put in that much time, but now it makes it feel almost inevitable if I do. There's no reason why I can't get there. You're almost 1600, 1560 on chess.com, I'm sure, right? Simply's only 1500 FIDE, even though he's 2000 on here, so I don't know if it's that much harder or he just doesn't go to too many events, but he has been taking it really seriously. He's like 1800 in USCF terms and stuff, I think. So let me think here. What else was I saying? Let's actually define the Stimuli Acme a little bit. And the best way to do it is like the idea that, okay, you appeal to hedonism. Or you know what, let's first define another one of these concepts, like enforcement. This is the enforcement self-interest idea that, for example, what does punishing a criminal or having laws against doing something really do? It's not preventative, it's reactive, because somebody can do a crime and then they get punished, so it doesn't stop them from doing it unless they're super obvious about it or something like that. And so what does it appeal to? It appeals to the ego and to self-interest. So if the reason why someone commits a crime is in self-interest, like, oh, they kill or steal or hurt to benefit themselves, you're appealing to that same tendency, right? You're not subverting it, or you're not above it, like, oh, we're appealing to moral good or something like that. No, you're appealing to self-interest because you're saying that you'll get punished if you do something, so don't do it, because you're looking out for your own interest. You have to appeal to the same tendency that would make them commit the crime in the first place, rather than something above it, right? So it doesn't depend on the goodness of people, or it doesn't assume it. It rather assumes the badness of people, that people would do it if it wasn't for that. So you assume that everyone's bad, and that's why it actually works, because the only way to really stop people from doing it is to appeal to their own self-interest and sort of herd that. So this is why it applies here, is the idea that we use the same principle here with sex and hedonism, the idea that you're appealing to pleasure as sort of the primary pretext of all of this. So for example, hedonism applies to this sense. The idea is that people would be doing this in the sake of pleasure, and so the simple idea that sex and pleasure are linked leads to this principle that Sigmund Freud talked about and that we extrapolated on from here. The idea is that that becomes the highest measure that people know, or the highest form of expression that people have in life. So you see, okay, family systems based around that, you see financial parity sort of linked to that, like your whole life is based around that. That should be your whole thing. You have a wife, a husband, whatever, you live in a white picket fence, you have that, so that's the basis of society there, right? But beyond that, you see it reflected in a lot of other ways too, where people are constantly obsessed with it. So you could talk about marketing and things like that, child support, yeah. But here's the thing. Profanity is the best example that I always use when I use this term. And this is the most illuminating one of all. All profanity, or most profanity, has to do with sex in some way. So whether you want to say something's amazing and the best possible thing, the highest form of positive or negative expression that you have, you would say, oh, that's fucking great, or oh, that's fucking terrible. That appeals and applies to sex as the highest form of expression that you know how to bring into that. Even if you're not thinking about sex in the moment, the word fuck has to do with it, or the B word, or the P word, or whatever. All these insults or terms or positive or negative descriptions of the highest level, right, are all linked to sex. So that shows you that's the highest form of expression that people know, or that they defer to, has to do with sex. And therefore that's showing you the hedonism hierarchy, that the highest form of pleasure is sex, and the highest measure that people have in life of anything that they know how to express is that same form of pleasure. So assuming that if you want to argue that certain substances or other forms of hedonism might exist and usurp sex, that's a separate argument, but that's the highest form of pleasure that people know, and pleasure would be the highest form of expression that people know. So they're referring to the Stimuli Acme and to sex in everything that they do, and in the highest form of expression that they know. So when you say, oh fuck, you're not thinking about it, but it still shows you that's that's the highest form that you know. So let me actually look at, did I say what? Hoism. No, hedonism. It's like pleasure. Not, or yeah, speaking of, we can say OF, right? I won't say what it stands for, but I think we all know. So I see all these little shorts and videos on YouTube about that, where people are trying to shame women for doing it or something like that. And the thing about that is, all these little podcaster clown wannabes, basically not unlike me, of course, but they're sitting there questioning like a woman for doing it, or shaming her or something, like, oh, don't you have integrity or this or that. But it's very hard to convince someone if they can make like a full salary or more than they make at their full-time job just simply posting pictures of themselves online and stuff like that. It shows you the vagueness of morality sometimes. Like in the past, people might have engaged in those acts in person, right, physically, and so therefore that raises questions. But because now, all you have to do is put a picture of yourself online, it's not defending the act of doing it, but it's saying it's very hard to convince somebody not to do that if they can make their full-time income from it. And it's like they're a nobody random person, so you wouldn't know who they are anyway, so it's not like it's not hurting their celebrity status or something like that. So it's tough to argue against it that way. And then on the other side, feminism, the idea is that, yeah, that's empowering yourself to make money online by posting pictures of yourself. But what it actually comes down to is the fact that it's a supply and demand issue. So I wouldn't blame the women necessarily for doing it. I would blame men for buying into it, or whoever, people for buying into it. Because if it wasn't for that, before OF existed, there were other means of the same thing, I'm sure. I just heard about, of course, never used that myself. And I would never use OF either. So therefore, if everyone was like me, anecdotally, it wouldn't exist, right? So that's the real issue. So people have to stop buying into it and supporting it, and that would solve the issue. All they're doing is giving people what they want, that what people are paying for. So it's hard to blame them, right? So I think that's a misnomer to focus on the women for doing it. But also, and just the assumption that everything goes in one direction this way is a whole nother topic. But the idea is that, you know, it's a supply and demand issue, and it's sort of focusing on the symptom rather than the disease. The idea that the inherent tendencies of people exist, where they have certain urges and desires and things like this. When it comes to that, like, that's existed for thousands of years, where people would always seek it out in some form or another, and people will continue to do that in the future. So even if OF went offline tomorrow, there'd just be something else to substitute it. So I think it gets sort of taken as a, what do you call it? It gets taken as a, it becomes ubiquitous with it, like, oh, that's the only thing out there. But there's got to be things like that before. There's going to be more things like that in the future. So it's just an example, however prominent it might be. And so you should blame people for buying into it and supporting it, supply and demand. Look at the inherent tendencies of people, that they've always sought out something like that. And I gave that one seminar on fetishes actually in real life, about the whole open-mindedness and positivity around expressing it, and don't hide it and things like this. People can be very shy about that, even with their partners that they've been with for years. Sometimes they won't want to talk about and open up about fetishes and stuff that they have, but it can be a very positive thing to do. And the biggest thing with that is, like, it opens up the ability of, like, people have certain fantasies, right, that they hold back, or that are very big for them, that throughout history they might have acted out in some extreme way, right, to fulfill that. But now if you have some video or whatever, picture, or some role play that you do in these other contexts, if people get it out that way rather than holding it in or ignoring it or suppressing it, then they will be less likely to act out in an extreme way. So it can actually be a great deterrent. The same way that you could say, okay, violent video games are actually an outlet rather than a cause of something. The idea that, oh, if somebody gets to, again, I don't look at it either way because it's just a game. But even if you want to apply it to that discussion, the way that people sometimes stupidly do, it's not that it would make somebody do that for real. It could actually prevent, arguably, somebody from doing something like that, because it can be an outlet and a form of, you know, expressing the same thing in a different sense. It's the same thing here. Rather than going out and actually doing something extreme, somebody can get out and express their fantasy in this way, where it's like some sort of simulated, whether it be in a video form, in a picture, whatever the case may be, in one of these secondhand forms, they get to express or experience their fantasy that way. And so it alleviates the need for them to go about it in any other way and suppress it and things like that. right? So that's where the open-mindedness around that can be a very positive thing. And then the other point is, yeah, we talked about the profanity thing, how that's so illuminating to just show that, again, it's the highest measure and form of expression that you have. I feel like I had a better way to express it. Hold on, let me actually play it back. I think I explained this. I made like a little video on it a while ago. And the music will still be fucking playing, but if you look up the term Stimuli Acme, of course this will be the first one that pops up with like 15 views. What is the Stimuli Acme? Stimuli Acme. This very. Let me see what I actually say here. Plays into the Freud idea, phallic imagery, everything is sexual in the mind, like where it plays such a huge role in society. This is taking it a little step further to the highest form of expression. Value is sexual in nature, or hedonism. This is displayed by a fascination with sex specifically as the highest form of hedonism. You would have to grant that as a premise. Obviously, that could be disputed with substances, etc. That's almost exactly the same way I said it just now. Hedonism is displayed. Okay, we already read that. It's reflected in every area of life. We see this in marketing. We see this in, probably a great example is profanity. Something good happens, you say, it's fucking great, or it's fucking terrible. It puts F4 in captions instead of the word fuck. If that's a rule, make it more broadly. Profanity in general, a lot of it has to do with sexual terms. Again, even if you're not thinking about them necessarily as you use them or as you say them. That is sort of a concession of half-mass hedonism as a standard and a high measure of value here. Family system, specifying it. Okay, so the one term that I didn't use here actually is the nearness postulate. So that was similar to how I just explained it now. The nearness postulate is a way to sort of debunk some of the false absolutes around it. So for example, we'll go into the word love or something along those lines here. Right, so the nearness postulate means that the best way to explain it is like, out of 8 billion people in the world, what are the chances that the one person, your soulmate, the one for you, happens to live in the same area as you, or happen to go to the same school as you, or happens to work at the same job as you, right? Live in the same county, state, country, whatever the case may be. So that just shows you that that's the defining factor. All the other secondary things, how attractive they are, their personality, things like that, interest, all that secondary to the nearness postulate, that the defining factor will be that they live in the same area as you, how close they are to you, things like that, the convenience of it. So that diminishes the absolute that is posed, right? It doesn't take away from, okay, you can have the relationship, nobody's stopping you from doing that, but when it's posed as an absolute, like, oh, they're the only one for you, or this is something more than just simply mere convenience in a Stimuli Acme sense, then you have to question it, because you have to say, well, the defining factor was that they happen to live near you, again, happen to go to the same school, same job, things like that. So those are defining factors that poke a hole in the false absolute that is posed. Now, why is the absolute posed in the first place? It's to ward off the cognitive dissonance associated with specifying the Stimuli Acme, because if it wasn't for that, then the inherent innate tendency would be to instead say, well, somebody would want to just have as many partners as possible, or they would just run amok and have no rules with it, and they just have orgies and all these kind of things, right? Because they would just be the more the better, right? So we have to turn it into an absolute to say, no, it's sort of like, how do you make a person love their slavery and indoctrination in society? You'll say, well, it's actually a good thing. I actually want to be with one person only, because that's what society tells me to do, and that's what we're indoctrinated to believe. And so there's a lot of negative rhetoric around, like, I remember that with Destiny and open relationships and this and that. And then when he broke up with Melina or something, at least I think I heard that, then people would shit all over it and use that as an example of why open relationships are bad. Of course, nobody ever breaks up in a non-open relationship. Like, divorce rates aren't high or anything like that. So clearly every time someone gets divorced, that discredits marriage. Like, that's such a stupid way to look at it. But in any case, the point is that that's part of the reason why it's posed as an absolute, right? Rather than just saying, oh, it's just convenience, it's just nearness postulate, it's just whatever the case may be. It's not that. It's an absolute. It's one of a kind. It's one in the world. All of those things are said to make you believe that for the people doing it, that they would feel like, okay, it's worth specifying it. It's worth, making about just this, because otherwise it would be very hard to rationalize that. And even then, people still don't do it. Like, they'll cheat, they'll do all these other things, but that's the premise that you use, is to say, this is how we can be content with it. Pretend it's an absolute, pretend it subverts everything else, pretend in the absence of any sort of accountable criteria, right? You say, what measure are you using to say that this is the one person in the whole world that you want to be with? Is it that they're the most attractive by your standard, by some standard? Is it because of what definable solid metric can you use without bypassing reason or simply not using any criteria at all? And the only way you can do that is by not using any criteria and just insisting upon it irrationally, thereby such terms as love and so forth. And one of the other things is what we were saying, nearness postulates. I feel like there's one other term I would use in this concept here. You would adhere to that. So again, the problem is not the state of that, it's not the specifying of the stimuli acme, it's the fact that it's posed as an absolute without any accountability to it, right? And so the innate tendency without that would be that people would naturally gravitate towards other things, where they wouldn't just be so willing to be with the one person that society would expect of them, and the whole bias between family system and things like that. It was like, how can you convince somebody to do something but make them think it's their own idea, or make them think that they want to do it? And so you appeal to their ego that way and say, well, it's meant to be, or it's something more, it's something special. And you see this regurgitated so much in media and TV and movies and all these kind of things. The pose sort of a non-accountable false absolute, similar to a discussion we had on religion the same way, but I'll leave that for now. But yeah, those would be the other forms of the highest form of expression. You'll appeal to God, like, oh my God, if something good or bad happens, the same way that you would say, or combine them for the ultimate, like, holy fuck. That's the best way to combine both irrational tendencies together. I feel like there was one more subject that I wanted to do. Let's see. Oh yeah, just the term itself was used in a series of short stories that I did, basically just the observer from outer space. This is copyrighted too. Not that my whole stream shouldn't be, but you can't even copy this even if you wanted to. But basically, let's say some observer from outer space is looking at the earth, right? And he's looking at human behavior. He's checking a list, and one of the terms is the stimuli acme is preserved. So he would check that the stimuli acme is preserved, because it shows you, like, oh, people are still living in this way, where they're treating that as the absolute, where they're still so obsessed with sex and it defines their whole society, and this is how their houses and whole lifestyle is built. So the fact that they still adhere to that means that they're still primitive in nature, right? That's one of the check marks to see how advanced is the society really. And the fact that they still worship and adhere to the stimuli acme would tell you that, right? So it'd be very easy to identify. If they were above that and beyond that, where that's just some basic part of life, basic fact of life, and that's not a defining element, or it's not treated as such an absolute emphasis, then they would look at it and say, okay, well, this is a more advanced society. So that's one of the benchmarks to tell how far you actually are along the way. So there's a whole list of those, and so that's what the character would say. They're looking at Earth as to, oh, whether it's a threat, or whether it's how advanced actually are they, or whatever the case may be. And he would just simply say, the stimuli acme is preserved, so therefore there's nothing to worry about, or it'll take time for them to get, like it's some sort of experiment. It'll take time for them to advance beyond this point. They're still primitives who are held back by this very basic tendency that they still don't realize the true nature of it. So that's kind of like the observer little short story that we did. Many different versions of it. In fact, even that chess-based one that I did, where it's like Space Jam with chess, where like, oh, the planet's going to be blown up if you don't win a game of chess against this challenger from outer space. It's like the same idea that they're sort of observing from the outside looking in. So it always goes into the objectivity of it. So now let's go into some anecdotal stuff, right, about like my own relationships, let's say, to whatever extent it matters. There's been like 3 major relationships, let's say, that I've had ever. Right, like 3 long-term, whatever the case may be. One of them was actually open in nature, so that's why they call me Destiny Jr. for real, not just because of the debate format. And then but 2 of the 3 ended pretty well, decently, at least as far as relationships can end, and I am still friends with those 2 people. The 3rd one, not so much. But that at least shows you there's something more to it in the platonic element. Like, you're still friends with them. It's not end all be all of the whole situation. So there's at least a good track record with that aspect. And so it shows you that, I guess, I don't know, like on some anecdotal level, if people want to apply something, but that is at least a good way to look at it. It shouldn't be just about that, or you shouldn't look at it just in terms of that. But yeah, there's this whole sort of down bad syndrome that I always make fun of again in YouTube comments and things like that. Like, everybody online is just like a little kid going through puberty for the first time, and everybody they see is the most beautiful person they've ever seen, and it's just like everything is so over the top. Right, where they're so desperate or so easily impressed by something. And so that in itself is kind of sad. And what else? Just sort of the objective nature of some of this. Like, one of my expressions was, to be aware of it is not to be above it. It doesn't mean that these things don't apply to you as well, but it doesn't hurt to necessarily be aware of it, because it doesn't make a claim, or it doesn't do anything for you specifically, right? It doesn't help you. It's just more like it's an awareness of some objective tendency or process. But just because you know something works a certain way doesn't mean that you don't have to you can't still practice it. It might make it hard and create some cognitive dissonance with you, right? Like, so for example, people would want to feel like the reason why you don't commit crimes or do something bad is because it's morally wrong, not just because people don't want you to do it. Or, you know, the reason why that ends up happening is because it's like your word against mine. So it's like God says that to do something like this is wrong, whatever, kill somebody, hurt somebody, steal something, right? So because God says it, you can't question it, and so you have to do it. It's not just that, oh, the government says it, or just people say it, because the problem that creates then is, if people say it, then you're a person too, so we're on level ground. So somebody says doing this is wrong, and then you say, no, doing this is not wrong, and so you do it, right? It comes down to subjective, your word against mine. So it's much easier to debunk that or to just dismiss it. You have to create this sort of absolute that becomes unquestionable, that people instead don't think about, not because it goes without saying or because it is absolute, but because any amount of thought would actually invalidate it. That was the expression that I would use with that, like, sort of this absolute that is posed and then therefore treated as unquestionable. But if it was absolute, then it could be questioned as much as you want, and it would never be discredited by it. So it's kind of like an opposite interpretation to go along with that. Let's actually touch on some of those subjects too, since I'm just talking about it. Not that it has anything to do with this, but it was like, what was the logical razor? Like, if your logic dictates that everything must be created, and your answer to that, what was it? If your logic dictates that everything needs to be created, and your answer to that need to be created is that God exists and God created everything, then that creates a problem. Because since you yourself said within your human-minded premise that everything must be created, then God too cannot be exempt from this need. So therefore, who created God? If God created the universe and everything must be created, then what created God? And in that term, you might say, well, God is exempt from the need to be created. But if you can create an exception to the rule, then you can therefore say that you can make an exception for the universe too. So if you're going to make an exception to say the creator didn't need to be created, then what they created didn't need to be created either, by the same logical loop that you yourself are posing when you're saying that the reason why he needed to exist, or it needed to exist, is because everything needed to be created. So the very same premise that requires his creation is the one that would require him to be created too. So that's one of the great logical loops of that old format, with just how, again, I'm not saying nobody ever said anything similar to that before, but just the exact way that it was said was pretty good. And again, even the Stimuli Acme idea is like an extension on Freud's idea, so it's always some originality to it, but it's obviously taking after other things too. And it's just a term I've used a lot over the years, so it is pretty good to see this is a good excuse to extrapolate on a little bit. So now maybe I'll actually play this, or what other subjects could I touch on? I may as well just turn this into a whole fucking thing. Yeah, this whole like sort of putting the whole sexual element above everything else, where it's like it's not as big of a deal as people make it out to be. right? And here's one thing that's kind of like this sort of pickup artist cold approach, sort of stupid stuff, right? People treating it like it's some sort of disposable commodity, which in some cases it might be, like casual one night stand stuff culture. And if you're aware of that, and open relationships, it's like the best way to do it is to be open about it in the first place. So if you're open about it, like, okay, you go into a situation and you're just saying, right, you don't want this to be committal, you don't want it to be one person only, then at least you're open about it, so you know what you're getting into. Either they won't pursue that, or you won't be upset later, or you at least shouldn't be, right? Because you're being clear with it. Whereas a lot of people don't know what they want. They go into something like it's a serious committed thing, and then they cheat, or they aren't happy with it. So it comes to the same thing. It's just one person's aware of what they want, and the other one somehow denies it or subverts it some other way. And all these sort of stringent, conservative, religious undertones that, like, you have to do this, or like so much of religion is concerned with that, like what you can and can't do in terms of relationships, and you have to marry somebody before you have sex with them, or all these different things. Like, so much of it is emphasized on things which don't seem like they should matter that much, but this is why it's held as the highest pinnacle of value. And what else do we have here? The idea that basically let's see, there was one other point. It's like, it's treated in a weird way, yeah, as some sort of like disposable commodity. Like, oh, you just walk up to somebody in public and you just say, I think you're beautiful, and then you go on a date, and then years later, oh wow, we're together and we have kids and we're married. Like, is that really all it took? Is that how shallow it was? You were just some aimless, mindless individual walking down the street, and all it took is somebody with some amount of charisma, some amount of looks, or whatever the case may be, maybe some amount of money that they're somehow flashing with their clothing or their jewelry or whatever, right? All this kind of stuff, all these gold digger pranks, like you pretend like some expensive car is yours and see if somebody, or like you ask somebody out and then they say no, and then you show off your car like inadvertently, and then they come crawling back and whatever. There's all these kind of videos like that. But the point is that that's all it would take, is to say, you're just walking down the street and then somebody just asks you out, and then that turns into it, like this sort of disposable setting of it, right? The idea that, and this is not like even a modern thing, like a Gen Z thing. This could be at any point in history, but like that's all it would take. So it shows you it's sort of a lack of measure or awareness, that like you're always open and available to that, or it's just very shallow and arbitrary, right? Like you're not really thinking about it, or you're not really putting any effort into what you're really after. So it's no surprise then that so many things end badly, because there's no basis to it. Some random dude walks up to you, or random person walks up to you and just starts a conversation, and there you go. That's it. That's all it took, with some minor amount of charisma, with some stupid one-liner, one stupid pickup line. If you had a certain amount of class to you, that wouldn't work on you. You would say, no, I'm going to go about it in the exact way that I want to go about it. So again, all this stuff would be thrown out the window, like, oh, pickup artists or pickup lines, and none of that shit should work in a serious sense if you actually respect yourself or have some sort of high standard in the first place. Okay, so let's go into this. But yeah, those are the two terms that are most relevant to this sort of discussion. Is the highest measure of stimuli acme of all things is people's measure is based in pleasure, hedonism, and the highest form of pleasure, hedonism, is sexual in nature, assuming the premise is taken. And so therefore you see that reflected in all areas of life. And then the second one is the nearness postulate, which shows you at times how shallow some of these standards are, despite their framing as an absolute. The idea that it comes down to dependent circumstances like environments and geography, things like that. That again, they don't diminish it to the point where saying you shouldn't do it. Like, no claim like that is ever made in this. It's an objective standard, but the idea is that instead, don't pose it as an absolute when it's dependent on such subjective reactionary factors as that, as geography, nearness, workplace environment, things like that. Okay, so this music ought to be stuck in your head by now, but yeah, now we're actually going to play the game for real, and this is something that shouldn't get you banned on Twitch or anything, because I looked up that at least this should be allowed in the second game. Apparently the third one maybe you can't do, but I don't really care. I doubt I'll get around to ever doing that. But Yeah, they should be allowable. Maybe there's some sort of safety setting you have to put on though, like streamer friendly mode or something. But why do I feel like I'm gonna get strong Frank T.J. Mackey vibes from this, from fucking Magnolia, pickup artist extraordinaire, played by Tom Cruise, no less.
Hey mate, Richard LaRuina, your friendly neighborhood seduction guru here, and welcome to Super Seducer. I'm so excited to be getting it into your hands. We had a fantastic time creating it, and I hope that you have a real blast playing it. But it's also going to be really interesting, I hope, and psychologically challenging because we used real dating principles in coming up with the game. So go ahead, jump in there, and finally, thank you so much for buying it, and I hope you really enjoy it.
That's the sign of a bad game right there, where you have to thank me for fucking buying it at the beginning. Why are you so desperate, dude? I already bought it. It doesn't matter. Even if it's shit, I'm not going to get a refund. Although I guess there is a lot of that does happen. Twitch. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean there's like a Twitch channel name? I don't know. There's some maybe mode that lets you do some sort of weird thing like in Party Hard where the chat can fucking troll you and do something. But I thought it would be more like a safety setting. Yeah, isn't this exactly like real dating where you get to see subtitles in the air and make plot choices when you get to... That's all going on in your head, of course. And of course, you couldn't have that opening cutscene without a fucking chessboard there. That's one thing we have in common. All the players are fucking chess experts. Get a perfect run and go, okay, I don't want to see all that. Yeah, there should be some sort of permadeath element too. That's if I fuck up. Girl on the street. How much time, I wonder, is he going to give you to make some of these decisions? You're walking and a girl catches your eye. Can you stop her, get her to talk to you, and make her want to see you again? Goal, instant date, custom... This is going to be so fucking cringy, dude. Are you serious? This is exactly the story I'm talking about. Nearness postulate. This girl has no aim or no self-respect in life. She's just a fucking random clown. Some random dude can just walk up to you and that's it. You're going to marry this guy and have his kids and everything. That's literally all it takes. Talk to her for a few minutes. See, there should be a timer. This is a QDE sort of wonder mechanic, like from The Walking Dead or something. You have to put a timer on it because then you have way too much time to think about it. Yo, what up, girl? Some of these you could just do for comic relief. Wolf whistle. Pretend to be blind. Walking. Well, if you pretended to be blind, then you wouldn't even see her in the first place. Wait until she's passing you, then talk to her. Talk to her a few meters in front of her and slightly to the side. Yeah, make it play it all cool, like you're not really trying to do anything.
Excuse me, just want to ask you something really quick.
I'm busy.
That failed because you made it too easy for her to just walk past you and brush you off. Too close, to the side. It means that she will likely do that as a reflex, like 90% of the time.
Oh, really? So you want to force her into a situation. You wouldn't want to give her the choice in the conversation. You want to be... What did he say again? I want to hear that again, actually.
Excuse me, just want to ask you something really quick.
I'm busy.
That failed because you made it too easy for her to just walk past you and brush you off.
Yeah, you wouldn't want her to make it too easy for her to walk past you. Like, let's fucking block her path and be a fucking dick. But she could think you're trying to sell her something or whatever. Like, how many lives do I get? I should have to get it within like 2 to 3 tries. Walking next to her is kind of stupid. Yo, what up, girl? I mean, this is the only logical one. You have to literally block her path and force her to deal with this shit?
That's correct. When you stop a girl on the street, you need to be directly in front of her and also leave enough space so that she can slow down and comfortably stop.
But you didn't even show what happened. I just saw you and I wanted to... Hey, do you have a minute? I think you're really beautiful. I'd love to go... Okay, the first part is okay, but you take it a little too far. Hey, do you have a minute? Or you know what I hate in sometimes these games is that it'll say something in the text box. That would happen a lot in The Walking Dead, I feel like, in some of the Telltale games. They wouldn't actually show you the whole thing. Like, it would say something and then he wouldn't say it the whole way. He would only say part of it or something. Or he'd like extrapolate on it. It would say like, fuck you, but he would just say dot, dot, dot and make an angry face or something. I just thought you want to let you know that you look very elegant. That's like you're trying too hard. This is always a good way to do it. Appeal to the nearness postulate in that sense, like pretend like you know them or something like that. That's a good sort of icebreaker. Come back to my place. I'll show you my instrument, or I'll teach you how to play the piano or some stupid thing like that. Hey, do you have a minute? See, that's kind of like too vague. You got to get to a subject now, at least. So you would want to do either one of these two, even though we're lying about it. We don't know anything about these characters. So, I mean, obviously, B and D are bad. So, okay, why is D bad? Because you're being too direct. You're appealing to the Stimuli Acme. See, this is why it's called half-mass hedonism, the old term. The idea that maybe both people want that, but they can't just say it, even just to themselves. It's not even like keeping up societal appearances. Even if, then nobody else is there and they're just doing it for themselves, they have to pretend like they don't want what they want and kind of dance around it and then eventually get to it anyway. So it's sort of like this lack of self-awareness that you have to make up your mind about what you actually want, but then you're somehow either embarrassed about it or you hide from it, or you don't want it to be too easy to get to that point, so you kind of, again, dance around it. You have a minute kind of leaves it too open to them. So based on the principle of the first thing, no, you have to literally block her path and force her to go through this right now. Like, you can't take no for an answer. This is like the Ted Mosby effect from How I Met Your Mother. Like, he just doesn't want to take no for an answer, and he's just obsessed with somebody, whether it be Stella or Robin or somebody. Like, how about the better lesson is the guy is just too fucking obsessive, and you shouldn't have to do that, right? There's always a good principle associated with that, in fact. Like, if you have to try super hard, like you want to constantly woo them and you're always buying them flowers, like on a regular daily basis, you're buying them flowers and chocolates and you're trying to always spoil them, it's not going to last as a relationship for the simple fact that you're not going to be able to maintain that, or it shouldn't require such a level of contrivance. It should be more comfortable or more natural or more normal, where you shouldn't always have to be trying and growing above and beyond and over the top. Right, so if you have to put so much of an act on, so even C and E are bad for that reason, because you're just lying. So do you really want this lifelong relationship, assuming that's what you're even after in this scenario? That's why I said that disposable line too. It's like, oh yeah, you got to pick up a girl, but like, what is the intent of this? If you want to tell me the intent of this pickup is a one night stand, then I can accept whatever it is that you're gonna do, right? But if you're trying to tell me, oh, you want this to be a serious relationship or something, then what point is it? Because it's like you're doing it like it's a disposable commodity. Oh, we have a dime a dozen pickup lines and we just do this kind of thing. And it's like, you only have to do this once then, assuming that you're actually taking it seriously and it's going to actually work. So why would you treat it like it's such a... It's like this is an art that you got to learn and it's this and that. Like, it's a one-time thing. Just do it and you're done with it. Okay, then you'll be with this person forever. Like, why do you have to be so shallow about it? I just saw you and wanted to know you look very elegant. I mean, none of these really seem that good. I would go with C or E just because, assuming you were so hell-bent on doing this right now on the fucking straight, as I was making fun of that scenario even before I started playing this. This is a tough decision here. So we got one question wrong. There is no like life meter here, but I should put something. I do love these sort of real-time, what are they even called? Like, contradiction style, where it's like a live, I can't remember, whatever, live motion video type of game where you get to see real actors, but you get to make plot choices. Just like a better version of the Telltale type of shit or whatever. There was some movie like that in the theater back in the day, like a super long time ago, where you could like push a button to decide what would happen in different scenarios. So it was like an interactive movie, and that didn't go over so well, but obviously, as a dedicated game genre, it's obviously been very, very successful. Didn't we go to the same college? Like, it's hard to say C or E, though, because I don't know anything about these characters, so that would be hard to do. B is a fail. I mean, A is probably what it's going to say is right, but...
Hey, excuse me, can I tell you something really quickly?
Sure.
I just saw you and wanted to let you know that you look really elegant. I love this skirt as well, it's really summery.
Thank you.
That is so
This
cringe,
is good
dude.
because you've given her a nice compliment, it's direct, it's made her smile, and it's made her feel like speaking to you. So it's a nice, confident way to start in the street.
That's so
So
stupid,
what's your plans
though.
for today?
I'm actually going to the park to feed the squirrels with my friend.
What? Feed squirrels?
Yeah.
And ducks or squirrels?
No, just the squirrels.
These little guys, yeah?
Yeah, we got them to be our friends.
What do you
sort
feed them? Like hot dogs?
Almonds?
Almonds?
Yeah.
That's their favourite, is it?
It seems to be.
That's nice. Well, they're really cute, aren't they?
They are very cute.
You like
it's
animals?
Fun. I do.
Nice.
Yeah.
That sounds fun, actually. I never thought of that. But buy some almonds, go feed the squirrels.
You should try it sometime.
Okay.
And what are you doing today?
What are you doing today? You're just so beautiful. Would you mind if I kissed you right now? Lean in for the kiss. Ask your questions for her to get her to do most. You know what's stupid about these scenarios too is like you're walking up to somebody like that. You would have to look and see, oh, are they wearing a ring? Or some people wear a ring to like opposite interpretation concept. Some people wear it to avoid people doing annoying shit like this, or they do it to make themselves seem more attractive somehow. It's like a play from Barney's Playbook, How I Met Your Mother reference too. But the point is that you wouldn't even have the chance to see that. So how are you even so confident in what you're doing? You do most of the talking. Ask her questions to get her to do most of the talking. Now, is this me saying that you do most of the talking, or it must just be... Yeah, actually, this is a pretty good technique that even I bought into myself. You keep asking them things like, you know, like that never-ending conversation, right? I did this once, actually. Like, you're in a conversation with somebody that you like, and so everything that you're doing is you end every single sentence you say with a question. So no matter what you're talking about, you just keep asking questions, so it compels them to say something, so the conversation goes on and it never ends. But after a while, it could get annoying, but it also is like you're really inquisitive, and it might be a little heavy-handed, but that's a good thing because you're not just simply ending sentences or just. So this one I actually agree with a lot.
Do you live local around here somewhere?
Yeah.
That's nice. And do you spend a lot of time in this area?
I do, yeah.
There's a nice coffee shop just down there. Have you been there?
I have, but I'm going to meet a friend actually, so I need to go.
Okay, what's her name? Is it a he or a she, actually?
Fuck, those
In the
ones.
beginning, the girl actually shouldn't do most of the talking, so you don't want to ask a bunch of questions. You want to make statements and do most of the talking yourself.
Oh, here we go. This fucking fake alpha guy here. His delivery is so cringe too. Like, come on, man. You're not showing the pickup artist thing very convincingly, If you do most of the talking. Yeah, I disagree with that idea too. It depends what kind of relationship you want to have too. It's like, what if I'm more submissive, so I want them to be the one doing the talking, or what if I'm quiet and I don't like to talk? Like, you're assuming too much that it's like a one size fits all.
Yeah, I was just walking. There's a nice park down there, and then I'm going to meet some friends, but I've got like 40 minutes, and that's why when I saw you, and I thought you looked friendly, so that's why I came over and said hi.
Okay.
In the early stages of an interaction, you actually do want to make most of the conversation so that she has a chance to relax, get comfortable talking to you, snap out of the mindset that she was in, thinking about what she's doing and where she's going. So that's the right one.
Even
You
her.
might hire some bikes and go riding around the park. There's like a nice spot where they rent out bikes and it's on the lake. And all
Yeah,
that.
but you ride bikes in that?
Well, I'm English. You know what we do, like the penny farthing and the suit on and
Okay.
sitting really up straight.
That's very fancy for bikes.
I will change.
Okay.
Change, yeah.
Like, even her response to that was awkward when he did all the talking there. Like, when she just said, okay, like, why are you talking so much? Why are you telling me all this? Start touching yourself to get her turned on. Like, some of these are obviously clown shows. But it would be interesting to do it just to see. But no, we got to take this really seriously. Ask what she does for a living because she looks artistic. That's actually not a bad thing to do in general. Use checking out her ear. Like, I'm already not buying into this, of course. Or you know what? Here's something also that addresses the down bad syndrome that you see, like where people act like everything is such a big deal, right? Or they act like they're so pathetic and desperate and all this kind of stuff. It's like there's 8 billion people in the world. Imagine how many relationships and how much sex must have been had to get to that point. So it's not a very novel thing, and it's not that big of a deal if you think about it like that. What hairstyle she thinks would be good for you, that's kind of too clingy and committal. We're not at that stage yet. I mean, you could be in a relationship for a long time before you give a shit what kind of hairstyle they like. Find an excuse to take off your shirt and show off your physique. I guess I'd have to figure out what that excuse actually is. Use checking out her earrings as an excuse to touch her. I mean, this is fine because it's all these are kind of too committal, right? Like, this is way too big of a deal. It's too early for that. Too early for that. Too early for that. This one is probably what he's going to say because this dude's too confrontational and too much of a clown, right? But so he'll say A, but I'm going to say D because he's, just ask a good question.
And tell me what you do because you look a bit artistic.
Well, I actually work in nonprofit.
Non-profit?
Charity, yeah.
Ah, I like making profit, so that's...
What do
No,
you
I'm joking,
do?
I'm joking. I work in IT, but...
Okay.
No, that's cool. So you're not so focused on money, you like doing good things.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Thanks.
I'm focused on money. No.
That's fair.
Because IT can be creative too, so...
Sure, yeah.
Asking what someone does is that kind of usual question that we always ask, but in this case, you want to make a guess, make an assumption. It makes it a little bit more interesting. And if you choose something to do with fashion or art, it's always a compliment for a woman because it kind of says that she has style.
Why does it even matter that it's a woman then? Yeah, well, let's see this from a different perspective. It's a guy hitting on a guy, or you get to play as the girl. I wonder if it'll let you do any of these other scenarios. Or like we see those videos on YouTube, like of, like a girl tries to hit on other girls and it works out so well. Because either they mistake it like, oh, they mean it as a friend, or it's just kind of unusual for them. Like, I would turn lesbian for you or something weird like that. Like she's a girl who's going out asking every girl that she sees in the same way. Are you single? Introduce yourself. A little bit late for that, no? Ask her name, then say it's your name too. Look up her skirt. I mean, look, dude. I get it, but are you single? Introduce. Like, again, this is how direct he wants to be. I'm surprised even that last one was right. I don't know. Just something about this conversation is really not doing it for me. Feels like you're trying way too hard. Introduce yourself. You need the proper icebreaker, that the fact that you work in the same place or something like that. But that last line was actually good, that he kept flexing that, I work in IT, so I care about money, even though he's joking, like, compared to the nonprofit thing. The fact of the matter is he's kind of flexing that, oh, look, I'll be the breadwinner and I make big bucks as an IT guy or something like that. He's got to be dressed more flashy, though, if you're going to go planning this. Like he woke up this morning with this intention. He knew that he was going to walk down the street and talk to some random girl and have like an hour-long conversation where he's rambling the fuck on and being super direct and forward and blocking her path and being obnoxious as hell. He planned this all out. So even the wrinkly, shitty clothing he's wearing with these fucking buttons and the belt and all this shit, his hairstyle, everything went into this moment. He's been planning this his whole life, so he's got to be more prepared than this. Introduce yourself. Are you single? Like, people make such clowns of themselves with how hard they try for shit like this. When you see how down bad people are, it's like, what was I saying before? Like, just how, I don't know, it's not that big of a deal. But no, he did a good job sort of flexing his money element there, because zero sum means reactionary element is a big role. Like for example, that's an easy way to, how can I explain it? Like, if you're a millionaire, right? That's number one. How do you get in relationships, or how do you get women? It's like, oh, money can't buy happiness and all these kind of things that people say. The contempt for money is just a trick of the rich to keep the poor without it. The lead is seen from Godfather 2. Good line, though. But basically, the point is that if you're a millionaire, that makes it substantially easier, right, to do any of these scenarios, or to just be in a relationship in general, because then you don't have to seek it out as much. It's almost like it'll seek you out, to the extent that you obviously are much more of a target there. So it shows you can say, oh, that's a shallow justification for it, but it doesn't hurt. Or I love this fallacy, like, oh, money doesn't matter, so therefore you're with a poor person and you're happy and it's okay. But like, if you could be with the same person with more money versus the same person with less money, you'd rather them have more money. So it's a net positive. It's like, sure, you could have the same personality and you can have the same whatever. Like, the two don't have to be at odds with each other. Would you rather be with someone who makes more or less? Like, why would that be, assuming it's the same person? It makes no sense to use that as a negative, like, or to be self-righteous, like, oh, haha, I'm with somebody who isn't rich because I care about something else.
Are you single? Because someone as pretty as you, I don't know, couldn't really be single, could they?
No, I am.
You are?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
I'm so surprised.
Are you?
I'm surprised. And am I single? Yes.
Good.
You got away with it, kind of. You could have found out the answer to your question of whether she's single or not in a sneakier way, and it would have been better.
Oh yeah, because you haven't been sneaky at all, you fuck.
I actually don't have a lot of free time. I work a lot, so when I'm not working, I like to be outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to be outdoors as much as possible. I actually bike where you mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah, I just try to be outdoors.
So you're one of these active people that's always doing stuff.
Yeah, it's hard for me to stay sitting down.
Not couch potato.
Well, every now and then, but in general, no, more active than down.
I'm kind of semi-active. Yeah. Like I do some active stuff, but actually I prefer it when, you know, someone else plans everything and they're like, come to this, and I always say yes.
Okay.
But given the choice, I often just chill at home.
That's
I like
fair.
chilling.
Let's Netflix and chill. Yeah, I was trying to be direct like he's been doing the whole time, because even though I preferred the C option, whatever, before, I almost want to go back sometimes and see what he says, but I guess it was good enough. What was the other option now that I was going to say? I was going to say, what was it? What was it? Are you single or, fuck, I can't even remember. It's just, so he wasn't satisfied with that one. Can I have your phone number? Sell her on one of your hobbies. Listen, I need to meet some friends, but I'll see you again. What's your number? That's a good way to do it. He wants to kind of dress it up and be subtle now all of a sudden, but he's been so overly direct the whole time. And it still worked. I love how casual you look. I hate girls that always try to look their best. I don't know how to take that, dude. Superficiality protest. We got to do the amalgam theory of, I'm just throwing out all my fucking terms today. Of fucking not wearing makeup. That's one of my fetishes. People who don't wear makeup because you actually look like you normally look instead of dressing it up. I can't. I have your phone number. I mean, that's direct, but this is a good way to act like you're not all super engaged. But see, in this case, you would want to say like, "Oh, let's just have a coffee now." But then again, you want to be presumptuous, but you don't want to be too presumptuous. Like, I just interrupted what you were doing, and I didn't give a shit what your plans were because I'm just stopping you in the fucking street. But then on the flip side, I wouldn't want to ask you to do a coffee right now or something like that like before. So you have to not respect their time, but you have to pretend like you respect their time a little bit. It's kind of a little half-ass thing. I want to see the last option actually of what I just saw. What was the other thing? I can't remember. Yes, like, oh, can I have your phone number? Is too direct. I don't know. This is the best one, I guess.
Okay, listen, like I said, I'm meeting those friends, but why don't you give me your number and we can keep in touch, maybe meet sometime?
Sure. There you go.
Cool. Nice one.
Have fun.
You too, see ya.
And that's the worst thing. Don't
Well
let...
done, you got a fake number. Not good enough.
Why the fuck would she give you a fake number there based on her behavior? Nothing there would indicate that. Is this Naomi Mizora from fucking Death Note where she's got a fake ID? She gives you a fake name because she thinks you could be Kira? Like, why would she be that suspicious when she's being so nice and talking to you? That makes no sense. Do what, you just have to keep going and bullshitting around over here?
Have you ever tried climbing? You know, like on these walls?
I've heard of it. I've always wanted to, but I haven't yet.
You know, it's very cool. We've got some place that we go to. I've only been like 4 times, but it's really fun. Very good exercise and just really cool. So you should definitely try it.
Yeah, I would like to.
When you're speaking to girls, it's good to be passionate about something, and a good choice is something you love to do, a hobby. Now, why don't you see if you can go out and sell someone on it, make it so that they're smiling like, yeah, I'd like to do that. That sounds great. So it's the right option in this case.
Okay, so you said you like biking and rock climbing.
Yeah.
Any other like outdoor activities?
Yeah, loads of stuff. Racket sports.
Like tennis?
Yeah, tennis and also squash. You know what squash is?
It's the English thing. I don't know.
I mean, most
no.
sports were invented in England, obviously, but I think they play it everywhere. It's like when you're usually inside and you've got a wall like in front, to the sides, and in the back, and you can hit the ball like anywhere. And I think it's the best exercise. You're constantly running and
yeah. It sounds
it's very cool.
Kind of dangerous, but fun.
No, it's fine. It's fine. The ball is only like that big, so even if it hits you, it's not too bad.
Okay.
You can smash each other with the rackets, but rarely happens. You should try it.
I might sometime. You said you work in IT?
So that one was interesting to the extent that he's like, you know, okay, so just a hobby. So the reason why that's good is because, yeah, you're using it as sort of a way not to actually show that you have the hobby. It's to say like, oh, I'd like to try that, so you should try it with me. Like, it's a way to get them to obviously commit to like some sort of date with you or whatever. That's a classic technique. Programmer and be passionate about it. Programmer, but switch to talking about life philosophy. Literally me. Say you were a model scout. What does that have to do with any? Oh, this is the old. Yeah. I'm a model scout. You want to go back to my place and I'll shoot a little short film of you, and you'll become a big shot actress. The ultimate bait thing to do. Say you are an ass model, then try to touch her ass. Programmer and it's really boring and you don't like it much. That can sometimes work too. Like people who like their jobs are a little bit of a, you're a little bit too well adjusted. That's kind of weird. Programmer, be passionate. Boring, don't like it much. I mean, obviously B would probably be the one, but I mean, life philosophy is a good one too.
Yeah, I work in IT and actually I love my job. I think that, people think IT is boring, but at the moment it's like the most exciting field, right, to work in. There's so many cool companies. I really love my job. So happy to go to work every day, and yeah, it's fascinating for me.
That's great.
If you have a job and you think it's boring, that's not important. The thing that you need to do is show that you have passion for something. If you do like your job, even if you think other people are not interested, speak passionately about it, and you can get them to buy in, feel at least the emotion, even if they don't understand it that well. So, don't worry about it being boring. Worry about how you tell others about it, and hope that your emotion will be contagious.
That was a really bad response,
So do you
though.
always stop girls in the street?
Yeah, that's a legitimate question. No, only the attractive ones, or only you because you're so beautiful. I don't look at people, I see through them. My old in-character RP line. But no, it's like that was so bad because there was a lot of just platitudes and general shit. But you have to say something very specific. Oh, I like my job and I'm passionate about it and blah blah blah. But he didn't say anything specific. I love this aspect of it. I love making graphic design and posters and helping people, and I helped this one guy like tell a little anecdotal story or give some specific reference. That was so generic and banal what he said, because it's just like, oh, I like it and it's good and I like it. Like there was no actual substance to it. Actually, yeah, quite often. Not too often, but when I like the look of someone and I'm single, why not? No, of course not, never. Only if they look like they are dying to be fucked. There should be one in here that just says, no, but you're so special, or you stood out to me, or it was worth it, or you're so beautiful I couldn't help it, or something like that. Make them feel special, like you're the exception. Like this is the essence of what I want to say, C, but the way he's saying it is cringe as fuck, so I can't do it. Quite often, we'll just say this and then justify it with,
Oh, stop girls? No. Probably, when was the last time? Maybe I've never even done it.
Really?
Yeah, I just saw you and it just came to me. It's not something I do at all.
All right.
Yeah. This is the usual reflex response, but it's actually wrong because it's just dishonest, and she knows that.
how did she know that, dude? What if it is the first time you've done it? A few minutes, grab a coffee, give her your number. Listen, I need to meet some friends, but I'd like to see you again. What's your number? I have an apartment all to myself. So, I mean, this is the clingiest one, D. A is semi-clingy, and then the other two are not clingy at all. Give her your number. That'll be like this fake alpha guy isn't going to like it, though, because he's going to be like, oh, haha, you never want to give her your number. You want her to give you your number. But then when she does, it'll be a fake one, so fuck you.
Listen, I need to meet some friends, but why don't you give me your number and we'll keep in touch and find a time to meet?
Sure, that'd be great.
You did pretty well. You didn't get the very best result, which meant that you made a few decisions that weren't quite ideal, but you did enough to get the result and see the girl again. You got the number, so well done.
No, you're wrong. She gave a fake number, like you said before, for some random fucking reason, because people do that.
That's correct. When you stop a girl on the street, you need to be directly in front of her and also leave enough space so that she can slow down and comfortably stop. This is good because you've given her...
It's like, according to who, dude? Who is this guy that he thinks he's so fucking... Oh my god. I almost want to see that again. Like, 27%. Was it really that bad? Two girls in a bar. See, the whole street thing I think is dumb because you're doing it in a setting that's so uncomfortable. Remove the red option, serious mode, goal, instant date. I feel like there was one response I wanted to see again. Hold on. Wait until she's passing you, then talk to her, walking next to her. Yo, what up, girl? Pretend to be blind. Slightly to the side. Wait, just skip all this shit.
That failed because...
What do you mean? I thought that was the right one. Oh, maybe it's this one, where you gotta literally block her path.
That's correct.
I just saw you, want to know you look very elegant. Didn't we go to the same college? Again, those ones almost make more sense, but...
This is good because...
Really not that good.
plans?
Ask your questions. You got her do most of the talking, you do most of the talking.
Yeah, I was just... In the early stages...
Okay, skip this
we might
shit.
hire some bikes.
Use checking out her earrings as an excuse to touch her. Ask what there's all like these weird things that people say too that are like so, you know, oh, this thing works all the time on everybody. Like one size fits all stupid things. This is not like chess where it's opening theory and there's one right and wrong thing. Like fucking people always try to oversimplify it too much. Find an excuse to take off your shirt, show off your physique. Ask what hairstyle she thinks would be good for you. Which one did I do here? Artistic.
Ask him what someone does.
Are you single? Introduce yourself. Are you single? Actually did work too. Ask your name, then say it's her name too. I mean, introducing yourself just feels weird because you've been talking for long enough.
You gotta wait. What kind of things do you like?
Can I have your number? So you're not supposed to do it now, but you're supposed to just wait a little bit and then do it. Tell her on one of your hobbies. Yeah, that's why you never make eye contact with somebody. Because you don't look at people, you see through them. Listen, I need to meet some friends, but I'd like to see you again. What's your number? You're not supposed to do that yet.
Have you ever tried climbing? When you're
This guy just talks way too fucking much.
Okay, so
you are an ass model, touch her ass. What is this? You're a programmer. Yeah, let's try this one, actually.
Yeah, I work in IT for this software company, but it's just so dry and boring, and every day is just repetitive. But, you know, pays pretty good salary, so that's why I stick with it.
okay.
If possible, you want to keep a nice positive tone, so this kind of response, although it's very common, is not the best.
So do you always stop girls in the street?
No, of course not, never. So none of these were really too good.
No, not often at all, but I think when I'm single, when I like the look of someone, I figure why not start a conversation, because you never know what will happen.
Yeah.
Could become friends, could date, or just have a nice interaction. Why not, right?
Definitely.
This is the right choice because actually it's honest and it's disarmingly honest. So it's going to take her back a little bit, but it's going to also show that you're telling the truth, that she can trust you, and show that you're confident enough to say that instead of making up some rubbish. So it's the right choice. Well done.
How much did you pay these two girls in the background? That's what I really want to know. Just to sit there the whole time. Listen, I have a few minutes. Why don't we grab a coffee? I didn't think it would be exactly like this style, but I have a few minutes. Why don't we grab a coffee? Yeah, let's see this actually.
Listen, I do need to go meet those friends, but why don't I give you my number and then you can call me sometime and message me, whatever, and we meet.
Yeah, sure.
Well, there you go. Saved it in there as Richard.
Good.
Cool.
Have fun with your friends.
Yeah, you too. See ya.
He won't like it. Couldn't be a fake number though.
Giving a girl your number and not taking hers is very pointless. It leaves the, chance that you're never going to see her again totally up to her, depending, how busy her life is and what she's got going on. And in most cases, girls don't like making the first move. So it should be up to you to take the number if you like her and do the right things so that you see her again.
That's like so insecure. Like you shouldn't be worried about it. You're this alpha Chad guy. Who cares? Just give your number to every girl you meet, and then whoever calls. Who cares? Like you don't have to be so desperate and clingy and act like the cliche. Like there's plenty of fish in the sea. You don't have to. Let me actually see that again.
Listen, I do need to go meet those friends, but why don't I give you my number and then you can call me sometime and message
Oh
me
yeah,
whatever.
I was gonna say
Yeah,
before,
sure.
that's rule number one. You never give somebody your phone because they'll see all the
the girl your
weird shit
number
you
and
have
then-
on there. Unless that's, oh whoops, I didn't mean for you to see that, and it's really something you're into that you want them to play into, like whatever your fetish is or something. You could do that in one sense, but in the other sense, like that's number one thing you wouldn't do at the beginning, where what, like I gave her my phone, right? He gave her his phone, and then she puts in her number. Like she's gonna see some weird shit on there, and that's rule number one. You never do that. Why don't we grab a coffee? Let's just do this one. Okay, let's just do the next one now. I'm done with
You did
this. Casanova.
That's correct. When
Holy shit. This guy just kind of annoys me. 34%. Club dance floor. Oh, it won't even show me the next ones or what? Or no, well, I'm just curious what these settings are. Not spoilers. Spoilers. We shouldn't even do it. Again, in a bar, the standard definitely is lowered here. As the expression goes, like, being drunk doesn't make people seem more attractive. It just simply lowers your standards for what being attractive is. You beautiful girls are sipping wine. You'll need a lot of game to get anywhere with them. Are you ready for a challenge? But the fact of the matter is, when girls sit, okay, sometimes they're just with their friends and they don't really care. But a lot of the time, girls do go to bars like this and they're sitting by themselves and they almost expect to be hit on. So then it's up to them. You know what I mean? It's like a game, who they want to go for, and like they're almost expecting it. Some of them want it. So it's like you're in a setting where you kind of are more open to that than being on the fucking street, at least. So this one should be substantially easier, or at least it's to the point. Like either they'll be, you know, direct one way or the other, but just go up to every girl in the fucking bar. Ask them if they are talking about you. If they say no, then say why not. Why would they be talking about you? Say you recognize her from your school. Again, these ones can tend to be the best, but ask them if they know what you like in a girl, the answer being your dick. Stealthily creep up on them from behind the sofa. Ask them to help you choose a present for your friend. Like, that's kind of, what are you, like an NPC in a fucking RPG game where you go up to somebody with just a quest right away before you've even met them or even know who they are? Go help me write a love letter to my Faendal and whatever, the guy in Riverwood, to my girlfriend. Starts with a C or something. Camilla or something, right? Like, I don't even know you and you're asking me to make such a major decision. I don't know what the hell you want me to say here. This is obviously dumb. This is obviously dumb, right? Ask them if they're talking about you. That's such a stupid thing to say. Ask them, help you choose a like, why would you do this in a bar? These are not bar-related responses. This is such a face-palm thing. How you break the ice. I'll even say that, even though it's...
It's you from school. How are you? Oh, what's your name again? Rebecca?
No.
Michelle?
No.
What was it? Remind me.
I don't know.
No, we went to school together, don't worry.
I don't remember
Yeah, you
you.
were that girl in class. You were like sitting in the back throwing things and stuff.
I was not doing
Yeah,
that.
it was definitely you. What's
No.
your name again?
Anastasia.
That's it. I knew it.
Really?
Yeah,
What is
yeah.
your name?
Richard. You remember me? Anyway, it's cool. We went to school together. So
Really?
That's the nice thing. Are you going to introduce me
That's
to
a
your
little
friends?
bit creep, you know?
Creepy?
Yeah, because you're coming up here, sitting
Yeah.
next to us and telling us we went to school together.
Babe, we went to school for years together. So it's like
Don't
we're
call me
already...
babe, all right? So
Well,
I don't really know you,
look,
know? Do you know
classmate.
this guy?
Look, classmate.
You know,
we went to school for years.
please stop being creepy and please
And were you
leave
at
us.
the school with us as well? I think you were.
No.
right?
Just leave us. Yeah, we're kind of in the middle of conversation. You know?
Well, now I'm in the middle of you.
No, I don't think so.
You're not very friendly, are you?
No.
It's kind of rude, isn't it? I'm just being
Maybe.
sociable. All right. I won't see you at the school reunion.
I don't know. Have you seen him anywhere? Yeah. No, I don't know. So, such an old line, you know? That's so boring. You know, such a creep. We should get out of here. I don't know. I don't like this place. We should go.
Wow, you got
You know
them
how in court,
so
the lawyer
dejected.
asks a question or says something that might lead somewhere that he's not prepared for? Well, it's the same like this. When you're giving her an opportunity to say no and dismiss you, it's usually a bad thing. So bad choice.
It's still always a good idea compared to most of it. Choose 5 wrong answers. Offensive. Like it's if I can't have them, nobody can kind of a thing. You piss them off so much that they're leaving at least. So that gives you a sort of a moral victory. Don't think you creep up on them. Yeah, but yeah, this is the whole trope of just acting like you know them from somewhere, because that's the only way sometimes to break the ice. The rest of these are so stupid. Like, why would they? I don't get these.
Like anyone here? Where do you want to go next? We can just change. Please.
Yeah, let's wait maybe 5 minutes and...
Yeah, we'll have a drink and then let's just
Hey
go.
girls, you talking about me?
No.
Well, why not?
Why should we?
That's a great subject.
You think?
Yeah. Probably that's number 1, and then number 2 would be about guys, and number 3 about shopping. Like top 3 subjects.
But talking about you as a man, talk as well.
Yeah, I combine all 3, and I go shopping, so you can just talk about me the whole time. We'll be fine. Okay. That's correct. Nice one. It's a cool, funny line. You know, in the bar, ideally, you want to get girls laughing very fast, right? And be more interesting than their boring conversation that they were having before you came. So this is a nice light opener. Again, need to deliver it with a little bit of a smirk and a smile, not seriously, and it will work well most of the time. So how do you know each other?
From school.
From school?
Yeah, like university.
When you were, university.
Yeah, college.
Not school, like 5 years old.
No.
Okay. And so you were in the same class or something, yeah?
No, we studied different classes.
Okay, let me guess. So I think that you studied fashion and I think you studied drama. Is that exactly right?
No, opposite.
The opposite.
So
you studied fashion and she studied drama.
No.
I studied economics.
Yeah, I studied business.
Okay.
Yeah, so it has nothing to do with drama and fashion.
Not really.
Not really.
Yeah, use the old XQC pickup line. Ask them about their fucking taxes. Aren't your taxes higher there? Like that she lives in some other part of Canada or something like that. That's the classic. But yeah, this is always awkward too when there's 2 people like this. Like, so what is the goal? Like, which one are you into? Are you trying to go for a threesome? Like, what are all the possibilities here that you're working at? And you're a hard liquor drinker. That's how you know he's a man. And fucking wine is fine, but liquor is quicker. Ha ha ha. Like what could? Some of these scenarios are so stupid. Relate it to the business between her legs. Compliment her on choosing to. It's not always the same letter. That's like the horny, stupid answer either. Like, you know, whatever throwaway one could always be the same thing. Go into details talking about the girl you like. Ask her about her favorite modules. But how do you even know which girl you like? I would choose this one, but I don't know. Accuse them of being materialistic. Suggest the world would be better without money. Transition to singing. What the fuck is that one? Say that it's cute and it's easier than a real major like math or science. You see, this is the real way you got to do it. You just got to have a conversation, but then again, you know, the setting here is at least more conducive to that. Like, you know why you're here. Why do people go to a bar by themselves, single, and drinking? Like, you know, you have to at least know or suspect or almost want some sort of attention. Or, again, when you're with a friend like that, it's hard to say. But still, like, really, this is the best way to expose what bar culture is all about. Is like you go to a bar to buy a drink for 10 times the cost you would pay in a liquor store just to buy the bottle and have it at home by yourself. So you obviously want some sort of social element to go along with that, right? That's the only way to justify it. And buy some shitty food that you don't even want that you can have better at a restaurant or something. I don't really get it. I almost want to see which girl he would choose. Say that it's cute and easier than a real... Like, see, those both kind of work.
Well, that's interesting, actually. So,
Yeah?
What did you do in your course? Like, what kind of case studies did you have about business?
It included everything, like how to start your own business and stuff. Everything.
Like entrepreneurship, leadership, and all of that?
Everything.
What was your favorite module?
I actually
Don't say
like to study.
statistics.
No.
I hate statistics.
I don't like it either. I like to count.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You had counting as a module. That's kind of basic, no?
I know, but I didn't say I took it like as a major.
Accounting?
Yeah,
Or
accounting. Accounting. Yeah, accounting.
accounting, not just counting. Because counting is like for babies. And then,
No, accounting.
accounting
yeah.
is, yeah.
It includes business as well. Yeah.
All right, that's cool. And what did you account? I mean, you counted as well? Yeah?
Just a little bit. Yeah.
And how about marketing?
Yeah, I took it as well.
Yeah? How was that?
It was alright, but I wish I would have more practice in that sphere.
Well, we could practice marketing sometime. We could sit around and we'd say, okay, let's imagine a company. What does it make? It makes tables. What could they be called?
Listen,
Table incorporated.
do you mind if I just keep talking to my friend? We haven't seen for a while.
No. I just sit here and you carry on, yeah?
I don't know. I'd prefer you leave.
Well, look, I understand you want to talk to her now, so I'll let you get back to it. But why don't you give me your number? And then if, for example, she gets in a horrible accident or if she's just leaves the country, then you're welcome.
So rude.
Why? It sometimes happens. It's very dangerous these days.
No, I'm not going to give you my phone. Sorry. No.
I don't want your phone. I want your number.
No, my number. No, my phone number.
Email,
No,
Facebook,
thank you.
Skype.
No, who even use Skype nowadays?
Anastasia 496.
No.
Anastasia.
No.
19,
Oh, okay.
88.
Listen. No.
Anastasia
What's
2001.
wrong with you? I just told you no.
No.
How many no's you should receive?
Okay,
to
wait.
just
Let me get
leave
this
us?
straight. No talk now. No talk
No
on
talk
Skype.
ever.
No talk on
Ever,
Facebook.
ever.
No chat. Snapchat.
No talk ever with you.
Oh, can you leave us, please?
I can, but I won't. No, actually I will. All right. No, I respect that. You girls have fun talking
Yeah,
about
we will have
interesting
fun.
things.
Yeah,
I'm going.
be sure. Boring.
Yeah, exactly.
Here you've given too much attention to the girl that you're interested in, kind of ignored the friends, leading her to get bored. Plus, you're asking a bunch of boring questions. Both wrong. Don't do it.
I like how long he goes on for too. Average, desperate, like, Jesus Christ. Like, what do you think is going to happen when you persist for that long, right? Obviously, it becomes less and less appealing to them. Compliment her on choosing tough subjects. Accuse them of being materialistic. So that kind of makes sense as it's like a little bit boring that you're asking about the modules and things like that. But we were trying to play off the whole taxes idea. Ask them about accounting and taxes. Accuse them of being materialistic. What does that even have to do with what we were just talking about before? We need like a backlog here. Compliment her on choosing tough subjects. Say that she's giving you kind of more of a come hither look than her. She's not even looking at you. But just because she's sitting closer to you, the nearness postulate in effect, that means that this is meant to be. Because we were a few inches closer to her, right? Then we're going to end up marrying her and being best friends with her instead. Say that it's cute. Easier than... I mean, all these are kind of related to the subject, though, still.
Business. God, that's a bit lame, isn't it? Easy. Can you choose something hard? Maths, science?
Do you think business is easy?
Yeah, man.
Why? To run a business is kind of a deal, you know?
Oh, to run a business.
Yeah.
So you run a business?
Not yet, but I'm going to. That's why I'm studying the business.
Well, listen to this. I'm going to fly to the moon. I'm going to fly to Mars. I'm going to be the heavyweight champion of the world in boxing.
Okay, so I'm happy for
an Olympic
you.
gold medal.
You have a huge
blah,
ego.
Blah, 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 blah.
No, it's not blah, blah, blah.
What's your
I'm really
business going to be?
studying.
Come on, I've got to hear
I want
this.
to open a flower shop.
A flower shop?
What's wrong with the flower shop?
Oh, I'm a girl. I like flowers. What should I do? Flower shop. And let me guess, she's going to have a beauty salon. Oh, I like doing my nails. Why
What's
don't
wrong
I
with
open
that?
a beauty salon?
You know? You should study manners.
What's your flower shop going to be called?
I'm not going to tell you. I don't want to see you
This is
between my
genius.
customers.
You two geniuses are just amazing.
Yes, we are.
Go away.
Yeah.
Go away.
Yeah.
All right.
nice.
I'll see you in your flower shop in the
Yeah,
future, and
I
then
don't
come
think
to your
so.
nail salon.
I'll put you in a black
I'm
list.
sure you'll be.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure you'll have a big successful business.
Yes.
Not.
We're going to have a big successful
Not.
business. Good luck for your life.
This is quite harsh and mean, and it's always better to tease than to just be mean with no fun in there.
Yeah, but then why did they write it like that? How did I know that this meant I'm going to be a complete dickbag and just go and hard on them? Say it's cute, easier than a real, like, how am I supposed to know where they're going to take it?
I like that, you know, because a lot of people, they do like, I don't know, some simple, easy subject, but doing business is really nice. I like it.
Yeah, but it's kind of a common thing to do in here.
Yeah?
I think so.
What? So you think a lot of girls in this bar study business?
No.
I don't think so. I think they study Instagram.
Oh, right. Maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wait, did you do well at university? You got good grades?
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah, it's cool. Well done. You'll notice that in the interactions, we want to balance validation, you know, saying well done, making the girl feel good, with things that are teasy or challenging. And in this case, it's something that they've worked hard on, it's an achievement. So why not say well done, you know, and give them some validation there for that. So how long have you guys known each other?
For so long.
Yeah, 42 years?
No, 7 years something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
like
didn't,
that.
you look very young. I'm
Oh,
only
thank
joking.
you. Relief.
And you know what? I would guess that she's like the crazy one, yeah? And I think you're the sensible one. So she's getting drunk and you're like, look, chill, come on, let me get you home. Is that right?
A little bit.
Yeah,
It
sometimes,
depends.
yeah.
You know, it depends.
Don't be shy.
can go
And she's the
crazy.
shy one as well. That's cool.
Yeah, she is. A little bit.
Nice. And who's the one who, like, who gives good advice out of you two? Or who's the one who has problems and then who's the one that gives advice?
We're girls. We always have problems.
Of course, yeah.
We're both, like, I think she's more.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I would say we're equal, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good to always get them to like play against each other. You make them feel jealous of each other, or keep complimenting one so the other one gets jealous. But it is like an awkward dynamic. Do the best friends test on them. Ask which of them is the leader. Look at the girl you're interested in. See, it didn't like this one last time. What you're really doing is you're not thinking about it in a real world logical sense. You're thinking about it in a, the game centric sense. It didn't like when I focused on one of the two girls because it somehow made the other one bored or jealous or something. So now you know that in the game's internal logic, you don't want to do this one. Tell her she has the most beautiful eyes. Ask her friend to leave you two alone for a little while. See, that those are both not going to work because you're kind of cucking the friend and making them feel like a third wheel that they kind of already are. But I guess in this sense, it gives them some sort of comfort that, like, oh, they're acting as like their bodyguard or whatever, that they, they approve of you and you have to really suck up to them. I don't know what the best friends test is, though.
And have you two ever done the best friends test? Have you done it? No?
no.
All right, let's do it right now. You ready?
Yeah.
What shampoo do you use? There we go. You don't even need to tell me. You've already passed the best friends test because best friends, they communicate unconsciously. So when you ask people, yeah, if people are very good, you just did it again. So if people are really good friends, they always kind of look and then, give the answer if someone asks them something. And if you weren't good friends, you just answer directly. But it's like you're communicating something. Yeah, there you go. There you go again. Because just by the look in the eyes, you communicate so much when you know each other very well.
Pay attention on this.
Yeah, pay attention.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
It's definitely true.
Maybe I would do this kind of test.
Yeah, try it. There you go again.
Yeah. Stop counting.
All right, I'll stop. This will work. It's a famous PUA routine. If you learn it, it's something you can go out and use in the bars and clubs. I've seen it work all over the world, and so you can do it. It's just a routine, so it's a bit, it's a bit lame in some ways to have something prepared. But if you want to guarantee having conversations with girls, then learning a few of these things is a nice way to get your social skills up and get comfortable talking to beautiful women because they are very engaging. So what were you doing before you came here?
We went for dinner.
Dinner, nice. Where'd you go? Italian? Or...
No.
We had some fast food.
Yeah, like burgers and fries.
There's like an awkward pause there. But no, he's like, it's kind of lame to have something prepared, like a routine. Isn't that what this whole game is about, though? Everything here is like a pickup can sort of thing. Be playful about how it's a little incongruent. Nice word, dude. Tell them how you're a vegan and try to convert them. say, say that it's bad in one way, but good that you'll put anything in your mouth. Good one. Say that, yeah, you don't try to watch your figure either. Tell them what you did. But how do I know what you did? See, what if that's an embarrassing, stupid thing? How it's a little incongruent. Like, incongruent with how beautiful you are that you would eat such a thing.
You know what? I do find that a little incongruent. You know, you girls in your nice dresses, looking all fancy, and then you're just like eating burgers.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe it feels a little bit weird, but
It's okay once in a while, though, right?
yeah.
This is perfect. You know, it's something that is very safe to tease about. It's not their, you know, their favorite thing in life. It's something that they know they shouldn't do. So it's a nice thing to tease a girl about.
Yeah, let's use how we're actually an international grandmaster at chess as a pickup line in a bar. That's great. I like that line by Botez where she's like, we would get our friends drunk to show off how good we are at chess and then beat them and they'd be so impressed. Or like at parties. It's like if you were actually good at chess and you weren't sub 2,000 FIDE or barely over 2,000, you wouldn't need to get them drunk. You could just impress them, period, because you're actually good at chess, which they are not by a high standard, at least, obviously. Top 1% in the world, by the way, fucking Queen of the Sandcastle effect. Focus on the girl you like, ignore her friend. I mean, again, it doesn't want you to do that. Give both equal attention, give slightly, yeah, this is the way to do it.
Perfect, because it's a tough balance, right? Because you like one of the girls, but you don't want the other one to get bored. So that's exactly what you want to do. You want to give more attention to the girl that you're more interested in, but make sure that the other one is happy and likes you, but that she also knows that that's the one that you like.
Too much work.
So what do you chicas like to do in your spare time? How about you? Anya?
I like to dance.
You're a dance? Oh, don't say that about yourself. What did you say?
I like to dance.
Ah, dancing. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. Okay. What else?
And I go to the gym a lot.
All right, cool. And how about you?
Oh, I have so many interests. Watching movies. I'm crazy about TV shows. I'm like
Yeah.
a freak. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And I also like love playing with my dog.
And if she means doing very... Okay, I don't even say that one. Say you like dog fighting. Say that it's sweet. Or no, you know what you should always say is say that you don't believe in tipping people and explain in great detail as you're having dinner with somebody, right? As about to pay the bill. You don't believe in tipping for the simple reason that it's bad employment practice, that you're encouraging employers to underpay their employees so that they rely on the guilt trip of making people tip to make up for the fact that they don't know how to run a business properly and pay them proper livable wages. And so therefore you have to tip them to make up for that. So you're kind of encouraging a system where they can get underpaid. Right, because and think about it, any other business, like a grocery store or something, you would expect in the cost of the price of the product that you're paying for, the same way that in the price of the food that you're paying for, you're including the wages of the people who work there, whether it be the chef, the servers, the waitresses, etc. So therefore, you're including that in the price that you're paying for, so you should be able to pay them a proper wage. But what they like to do is to have their food and eat it too, basically, in the sense that they're going to charge you what you would expect, a high amount for the food based on the labor-intensive things to go into it, but then they still expect you to tip on top of it. So they're not running their business properly, but then they want you to pay the price for it too on top of that. Say you have fish. What does that even mean? Oh, like fish and see now, this I would have to judge pretty harshly because I don't know whether you actually do or not though. See, some of them like, oh, I know you from school or something. Their acting isn't too bad though, the girls here. That first one was kind of weird. Or it's not even that the acting was bad from the girl, it's just she would say okay so many times. It's like I guess it matches with the awkwardness of doing that to someone on the street. Say that it's sweet and that people with pets are generally more caring.
But that's interesting actually, because I was reading this thing like what was it, in Journal of Psychology or something, and it said that people with pets, and especially dogs, and is it a boy or a girl?
A boy.
Ah, perfect. It said that people with opposite sex pets who really like them, and you said you did, it means they're really caring people in general in life. So.
Oh,
Yeah, it's very interesting,
Maybe,
actually.
yeah, that's
So it's
interesting.
the kind of idea that, you know, you meet someone and then if you find out they really like animals, they have a pet,
Yeah.
it means they're, you know, you can trust them and they're probably
Huh.
a good person.
That's interesting.
Cool, hey?
Yeah.
And is it true about her?
Yeah, exactly.
Whether you love animals or not, it doesn't matter. You have to understand that she does, right? So it's something that you shouldn't turn into a joke, be rude about, or, you know, contradict. Why not say something positive about it? And there's an example that you can use all the time because a lot of girls love dogs or cats. Listen, can you tell her to just stop talking so much? She's just talking all the time. Is she always like that? No, I'm joking. She doesn't really say much.
Yeah.
But she's
Why?
sweet. She seems very sweet.
Yeah, she is. She's
You're
really
sweet.
nice. Thanks.
Get physical by checking your muscles. Ask where they see themselves in 5 years. Both of these seem kind of weird. But no, like that last one was very awkward and cringy to the extent that it's like, I almost wish there was a backlog. It's kind of hard to keep track because you'll say something, like you'll watch the scene, then the guy will talk about it, then they'll talk again, right? You need a break in there. This is supposed to be a streamer-friendly game that's made for Twitch, so, or maybe it's like Twitch gets to choose the options themselves. Maybe that's what the whole integration is, like how Party Hard they get to choose like what kind of threats are sent towards you or something like that. But basically, what was the last thing he just said? Yeah, that was kind of lame. Like, oh, I read this thing in somewhere, and he even kind of bullshitted as he went. He's like, you know, oh, let me ask the gender of the pet in the middle. Like, oh, I read this thing. Oh, by the way, what gender is it? And then, oh, what I read happens to be that if you have an opposite gender pet, that means you're very caring. Like, what if she didn't then? Whatever she said, you would have just bullshitted about anyway.
Listen, girls, I've got a great question. Where do you see yourselves in 5 years?
Oh, that's like a boring interview question.
Like a job interview, right?
Yeah, I feel like I'm in a job interview, not in a bar.
They normally ask that. Okay, I've got a much better question. Let me think. Where do you see yourself in 7 years?
Do you think that's
Genius.
the right place and time to talk about this, like the future?
I guess not. Unless you want a job. You want a job with me?
No.
Okay. Typical interview question, but as you see in an interaction with pretty girls, doesn't go. But you girls are in pretty good shape, so I think you must do more than jogging. You do some sports.
Well, sometimes I play squash, but
Cool.
not as often as I maybe wish.
Okay, I play a little bit as well.
Oh yeah? That's great.
What else? Anything else?
I used to play basketball when I was in college,
Yeah?
but yeah, it was a long time ago.
That's cool as well.
Yeah.
You
but
watch the
not
NBA
anymore.
or you don't watch it?
I used to, yeah, I was crazy about it, but yeah, I have my job now and I don't have plenty time, so I don't watch it anymore that
Alright.
often. Yeah.
Why would you ask her NBA? You should say WNBA, right? You're assuming gender that, oh, as if the WNBA is trash compared to the NBA, that you wouldn't even consider it. Do the strawberry fields routine. I don't even know what that is offhand. Show off what?
Girls, do you like psychology tests? Things like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah?
Yeah, we can try.
Well, who doesn't? Come on.
I don't know, it's interesting. Of
course it is.
Yeah.
Have you done this one called Strawberry Field Psychology Test?
No.
Okay,
Have
try
you?
No.
try this right now with me, both of you, okay? So maybe close your eyes, it will help. So close your eyes and you imagine you're walking in some beautiful place and then up ahead you see a field of strawberries. And tell me, there's a fence around it. How high is the fence? Just show me with your hands how high it is. Okay. Oh, okay, nice one. All right, that's enough. And then, yeah, you can put your hand down. And then the next thing, so you go in there and you want to eat some strawberries. How many strawberries do you eat? What's your answer?
I will eat as many as I can.
Okay. And yeah, how about you?
Me too.
Loads of strawberries.
Yeah,
Okay.
strawberries.
But then you've eaten all the strawberries, you're leaving, and then the farmer comes. And he's like, you ate all my strawberries. And then what do you say back to him?
I would just say I'm sorry.
What would you say?
I'm hungry.
I was hungry. Okay. All right. You can open your eyes.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you what it means, right? It's very interesting. So the first one, how high the fence is, that's your barrier to sex. Yeah? Like how open you are, because strawberries represent passion and stuff for a woman.
Okay.
So yours was kind of here, so it's like medium. Yours was really high, like a huge fence. So it means, you know, you're quite difficult to have sex with, basically. But anyway, you don't have to answer if that's true or not. But then the number of strawberries you eat is your sexual appetite.
Okay.
So some girls, maybe they say, oh, I always have like half a strawberry. And then she's like a girl that doesn't like sex. And then go have a few strawberries, but you,
Yeah.
what did you say? You ate every strawberry in the world or something.
Yeah, like
Okay.
all I wanted. Yeah.
And then the final thing is what you say after sex. So when the farmer catches you. So what do you say? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm hungry.
And you say, I'm hungry. Yeah, you're hungry after sex, right? It's normal.
Yes.
Ah,
That's
perfect.
so funny.
Seems perfect to me.
I'm sorry.
I think that was dead on. Psychological test win.
Whoa. Interesting.
Now, if you can be bothered to learn this, it actually is another thing that works. Again, it's prepared, so it's not ideal. We don't want you to just learn a bunch of stuff and go out and repeat it. But if you do find yourself in a boring situation, you know, a date that's not going so well, talking to a girl and you think she's not that into you, why not have it ready? You know, it's quite interesting. And you can always just say it's a psychology test that you saw online, right? So what did you guys do? What about you, Anya?
I have a fashion store.
Oh yeah, selling clothes?
Yeah.
Nice. You?
I don't work at the moment.
Unemployed?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, doesn't that tie into what they said before in one of those wrong responses where it's like they studied fashion or something and one day we'll have a fashion store, but they already do, then that means? Or did she just say she worked at it? You really need a goddamn backlog for a game like this. It's hard to keep track because of how long that shit goes on for. Like that's like that test was kind of cringe. It almost seems like you're trying to, you know, you get them like it's a sign of trust that they would both close their eyes willingly like that. You don't think, oh, you could try to rob them or you could try to, you know, do whatever, something weird, or it's like you're trying to hypnotize them or something, like, oh, imagine yourself on the beach or whatever. Like that's kind of a weird thing. But and then even you're being direct with what it means, like all these sexual things, like why are you thinking about that? But he plays it off like it's a joke or something. And he keeps saying, oh, this guy has one tendency. I'll psychoanalyze him. He says it's interesting a lot, whether it's in this setting or even when he's on the bed with those two girls and he's recapping the thing. He'll say it's very interesting. It's very interesting. He's trying to build it up too much. He's like praising his game and calling it very interesting. But basically, it's a case where, I don't know, like he keeps saying, oh, we wouldn't want to just have you learn stuff and remember it, but that's kind of what this is like very canned, generic pickup line type of stuff. Try to hook her up with your friend Kareem, who can be her sugar daddy. Now, that's the one thing that's really going to get you girls is, you know, having that option at least. Ask her what is her dream job. Tell her to hire her friend to work for her making clothes. This should be fine.
Well, I'm sometimes unemployed, but it's by choice. So for you, like you're looking for something, or you're just
Yes, I'm looking for something suitable for me, but
what's your dream job?
I want to open a flower shop.
Oh, that's nice. Because when you said I don't do anything, I just thought you were at home painting nails and like getting some dude.
No.
And you buy your own drinks and stuff. So yeah, that's all right. You're still independent.
Yeah, trying to.
This is a nice, just playful answer. Good one. You girls seem really nice, but do you have any bad habits?
No.
Drug abuse?
No.
Cigarettes?
No.
Alcohol. Got you.
That's not a bad habit.
Cheers.
No, cheers.
Your liver's very happy with that.
That's all right.
That was too much of like an interrogation thing, though. It's like it's so direct and indirect at the same time. That this is the whole cognitive dissonance of it, right? Like you're being so weird about it. Like you're asking them all these questions, like, "Oh, I want to see like if she smokes or not, and if she does, then maybe I'm not into her because I hate people that smoke, or maybe I'm into that, and it's like a femme fatale effect. I want her to smoke right in my face, kind of thing. Like it's just so dumb. Ask if the girl you like is a good girl. Ask if she will something after a few drinks. Ask which of the girls is okay, dude. Is a good girl in what sense? Because that term can be a little bit loaded, if you know what I mean.
So Anya, I don't know why, but I trust you. You seem very honest. So tell me, is she a good girl?
Yeah, she's a nice girl and very intelligent.
Ah,
Oh, thank you.
she's nice. Yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah, she's a good
friend.
Right.
Instead of directly saying, I like you, a nice way to do it is to bring the friend in and ask questions about the girl you like. I've seen this work all over the world, and it's the right choice. Well, that's good that you were honest and told me that.
Actually, I'm honest.
Yeah.
I want to tell you, she has a boyfriend.
She has a boyfriend.
Yep.
Ask why she is talking to you then. Ask if she is going to marry him. Ask if he satisfies her. Say she must be bored with him when you can have. It is actually a pretty legitimate thing. You wouldn't talk to a random guy this long at a bar. You wouldn't be at a bar this long in the first place. I guess the fact that you're with your friend kind of justifies it a little bit. But you wouldn't be having this conversation looking at me like this with those wandering eyes if you were satisfied. Say that a girl can never have two. Okay. Ask why she is talking to you then. You could just say, oh, because you're bored or whatever. You're the one who started the conversation. And you can ask if you satisfied her.
You got a boyfriend?
Yeah.
Why are you talking to me then?
Why not?
I don't know, he's at home and you're like talking to some guy in a
Yeah,
bar.
but I'm not the only one sitting here. She is free.
Yeah, but I liked you. But she's nice.
Yeah, she's nice.
Okay.
You sound so disappointed.
There is a better way to do it. If she has a boyfriend, you have the choice of either leaving immediately, but why not find out a bit more? Maybe you can be friends. Maybe you can move on to the other girl. There's always something you can do, and challenging her in this way, not the best thing.
But the other ones were more confrontational. What? Instead, you should have said, does he satisfy you? Like, what else? Leave because she has a boyfriend. I mean, even here, you got to know what you want. You're like, oh, well, she failed, so therefore we'll go to her. Like, ask if she would mind. I mean, that should be your first clue right there. Anybody with deductive reasoning skills could tell you. She says she's unemployed, so of course she has a boyfriend because, oh, she's independent. She's independent because she gets her boyfriend to give her an allowance, and she's buying her own drinks and wine with that, and her own fucking fast food chicken that she had before she got here. So the point is that should tell you right there she has a boyfriend, the fact that she's unemployed. Ask if she either has a daddy who takes care of her like a rich parent or a sugar daddy in that sense. Ask if she thinks you could beat him up. Oh yeah, this is actually not a bad one.
Well, look, I don't want to disrespect your dude, so would you mind us talking?
No.
Like if he was watching us right now and we were like, he would be okay?
Yeah.
Yeah? If we took a selfie and he saw it, it'd be okay?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, he's kind of chilled, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Nice, that's good, right?
Yeah.
Not too jealous. This works psychologically because you're taking away her independence. You're saying, well, would he allow you to talk to me? Like, are you allowed to do that? So she's going to want to say, of course I'm allowed. I do what I like. And, our relationship's fine. We don't, I'm allowed to talk to other men. She's not going to want to say, actually, I'm not allowed. And, I shouldn't do it because he controls me and tells me exactly what to do. So it's the right option.
But it's society that tells you what to do in that context. And of course, the assumption that every relationship is not open and very structured and, you got to be with a single person only and all these kind of rules that are taken for granted. Find out their plans for, see, the incentive behind it is always interesting there. You could say, well, it's like with good intentions, but it doesn't mean it's applicable or that on a personal level that anybody would actually want to do it. So for example, the reason why that perception exists is like, oh, you want to be with one person only. It's only beneficial to society for a family system and, raising kids and things like that. It's beneficial for that. But on an individual basis, people would say, screw that. I don't care. I'm just going to do whatever I want. And why do I have to limit myself that way? There's a conflict between that self-interest and natural instinct and the sort of collective interest of society that they'll then try to trick you into thinking is what you actually want somehow by posing it as a false absolute and bypassing cognitive dissonance like we talked about before. Find out their plans for later and whether they live together. Ask if they've ever kissed each other and try to get them to kiss. So it'd be amazing. Like, so random.
Did you make any plans for later? You're going to go carry on the night?
No plans.
Yeah? How about tomorrow? You don't need to wake up because you're not working at the moment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
do you need to open your shop early in the morning? Or
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I don't really need to do anything, so I can stay out, sleep
Yeah, you can. We need to catch up some beauty sleep.
in. I don't need it. Exactly. This is an important step. You're finding out important logistics that will tell you how easy it is going to be later in the evening to take one or both of the girls and do something with them.
Do something. The way he said that was a little weird too. Try to get both their numbers to just hang out all together and take the number. Tell the girl you'd really like to take her out and involve her friend. Yeah, I mean, you should be able to do
Well,
that.
listen, we should definitely meet again sometime. Hang on, but let me check with Anya first because she can say. What do you think? You think we would have a good time if we meet? And you trust me, right? You know I wouldn't like kill her or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Do you have plans on that?
No, of course not. She trusts me. Look. All right, so put your number. Wait, that's only 4 digits. Oh no, you finished. All right, cool.
Yeah. Here we go.
Cool. You have to remember that these girls are going to talk about you after you leave, and you want her friends to big you up, to say nice things about you, and a good way to do it is to bring her in all through the interaction and here kind of get her approval in an old-fashioned way that, she's cool with it. So it's a good thing to do. Good choice. Okay, well, it's great speaking to you. I'll leave you guys to it.
Okay.
Have a nice time for the rest of the night.
Yeah, have a good night.
See ya.
Yeah.
He seems a real nice guy, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you should go out.
Yeah, one day.
Yeah, cool.
That's such a weird way of doing it. The one
That's
girl,
correct. Nice one.
the one girl that you gave your number to, right? Or wait, that you took her number. She's the one who said she had a boyfriend, and the act of you doing that says, "Oh, she says you're nice," and then she wants the other girl to go out with you. It's like, so you're ignoring the girl who's single, and you're taking the number of the girl who isn't. That's like the opposite of probably what you should have done. Club, dance floor, girl sitting in a coffee shop. Girlfriend to girlfriend. Yeah, see, at least this is a good thing, right? This is the real way that you do it. Or even backwards, girlfriend to friend, right? Like, it's not such a bad first. Or are they going to reuse some of the same actors and actresses? Because she looks like, maybe not. First date, Alexa. Is that like Alexa as a mechanic? Like, you'll be talking to Alexa in the background. Alexa, tell me dating advice. Direct day game. Wingman. Office. First date, Kate. Is that like the whole game though, really? These do go on for quite a long time, but some of the responses are so fucking long, dude. Extras. Advice book. Yeah, like what would be my preference? Like, the first girl is attractive. I didn't like the second one as much because whatever, maybe I don't like the accent or something. The fact that she's unemployed. Although the first one seems a bit older. It's hard to say. I always have that funny story about blonde hair, right? So this girl, like, I'm friends with, and right, I never think of her in any sort of other way. Like, we're just genuinely friends, whatever, for a long period of time. And then one day she comes in and she dyed her hair blonde, and immediately I'm much more, I think about her in a different way, and then we end up going out. So the catalyst for that was the fact that she literally fucking dyed her hair blonde. That's all it took to just like how that looked on her or whatever. It just sort of makes you look at somebody differently. That's hilarious that that's actually legitimately what it could have taken to spark a relationship. It's not like she did it for any reason, right? Like she just felt like doing it, so randomly. That is hilarious. Like you change some basic thing, and that makes such a big difference on how somebody looks at you. Like Allison Williams dyes her hair blonde and makes her look completely different. Yeah, I guess that's good enough here, but that was at least a good excuse to read this important update. Good excuse to talk about Super Seducer 3 has been officially banned. Banned and removed from the store. They will not allow it to be Steam. Our page is gone. I wonder why. Because this guy's revealed as a fraud, or because it has some questionable content in there. Prior, they told me approval, feedback, donate, buy Super Seducer 3. So I assume this one you can't do. Yeah, let's read who this clown is. I'm Richard. I founded a dating advice company. You know, there's this website, not that I'm encouraging anything, called Seeking Arrangement, and that website is used, right, as like a sugar daddy type of thing. And so that's a great way to find something, hashtag ad. And the reason why is because that's at least more direct. Like there's some implication of like, I guarantee you'd have way more success on there than anywhere else, assuming that you'd be in the position to do that, right? Like, than a regular dating site, because you're at least going in with you have like some upper hand to say like, oh, you're a more desirable person because you have money or whatever. Like that's one of the easiest things right there. You don't need a pickup line, you just need the fact that you're successful already, and that'll work on most people, including that unemployed chick in the bar. So the one chick worked in she works in non-profit, she is unemployed, and has like a flower shop, or no, she wants a flower shop. What did the other girl say? She has like a fashion shop or something? Okay, whatever. I like the whole format of the game, but some of it is like it's trying way too hard in a way. And it is a fitting game to play on this day, because I couldn't really think of anything else what to do. Let me see if I can think of some other subject maybe. I don't know. I like how I went over some of those terms at least, so that was interesting. Let me read maybe some more about this clown guy. Super Seducer, so he's trying to garner sympathy, the fact that he's the third game is banned for some reason. But yeah, all this kind of stuff is stupid. Like obviously this is just a game, so you don't have to take it that seriously. But in the context of like pickup artists and all this kind of stuff, like let's read something about it. Pick up artists. Pickup artists, PUA abbreviation, are a movement of men whose goal is seduction and sexual success. They often self-identify as a seduction community or the pickup community. The community exists through various channels, including internet, newsletters, blogs, marketing, such as banner ads. Like there's a lack of awareness to this kind of stuff, right? Like, you don't think girls could be aware of this sort of thing too? Like, what if they just look it up, or, you know, the same way that you are, or you don't think that's all it takes to counteract or invalidate something, right? Is if you just are aware of it yourself. Like you look at it in a very shallow incentive sense. Like the only reason why this guy's talking to me is because he wants to get in my pants. So if you look at it that way, then that discredits the whole thing, and that might actually be true, and that's fair. Like it's, I don't know. The rise of seduction, science game, or studied charisma has been attributed to other forms of modern dating, social norms between sexes, which developed perceived increase in the quality of women in Western society. Oh yes, of course, that's the real inconvenience of the quality of women. That now you have to go pick up game and do all this kind of stuff, whereas before you wouldn't have to do that. It would just be a given. Commentators in the media have described it as how is it sexist or misogynistic when that's the dumbest thing I've seen. The culture is that you have to earn your way. It's like a game, and you have to, you know, you have to win at it, instead of before. What would be the expectation before then? You would just get it because it's so stupid, though. It's just kind of boring in a way. Like it's so obvious and banal. That's kind of a measure of the person on the other end, that like if something like that works on you, that kind of speaks badly to your, of course, reading a Wikipedia article on it. The pickup artist and movie starring who? Molly Ringwald and Robert Downey. Oh shit, I haven't been this excited for Robert Downey Jr. since Bobby Fischer, because that was technically his real legal name. I don't even know what this is. A womanizer meets his match when he falls for a woman in debt to the mafia. Okay, see you tomorrow. I don't normally like to write stuff down. Like, I like to just freestyle it, but in this case, since I forgot so many things to mention in that discussion, I guess I should just... I did it just for the sake of it. So basically, yeah, imagine if I die in a situation like this too. Like, I'm not paying attention and I'm just going over some random thing. Like, I can turn every category uncannily into a just chatting thing just because of how fucking slow paced sometimes these things are. Or either that, or I inject some sort of RP, like into Dark Souls or something, just because you're attempting the same boss like a million times that it almost makes sense to do it that way. So let's actually see, this is the perfect sort of thing to do, right? A caveman mulls over the meaning of sexuality and all these kind of things. The Stimuli Acme in the fucking age before he's even seen a single female character or whatever. Like, this is them just mulling over the whole meaning of this, the original Super Seducer. So that his delivery was kind of unconvincing. That's what I didn't like. Maybe it's because of his accent or whatever, but that's like bootleg Frank T.J. Mackey from fucking Magnolia, played by Tom Cruise, of course. Let's see. Okay, so part of the Stimuli Acme has to do with the reduction, and this is true of like the whole term that I would always use in that format too. A lot of these things are old discussions that we've had, but I can't always remember them. Like human functions, where it's like the reduction of your infinite objective mind to the initial physical reactionary state. The idea that you'd basically be reduced and defined by your function, basically like your job or an activity or something like that, rather than an infinite objective mind that you have the capacity to have. So within that context of the initial physical state, in a reactionary sense, the highest level of sensation is the Stimuli Acme, so therefore it's held in such a high regard because in the physical state there's nothing higher, right? There's no higher measure in the physical state than hedonism, let's say, than that stimulus, than sexual stimulus, than the Stimuli Acme. So that's why it's used that way, because it's like people know of no higher form of expression or experience than hedonism, than pleasure, and then the highest form of that is therefore sexual in nature. Whether you actually agree with that or not, we could debate. Again, I always bring up the substances or whatever else you want to say, but that is at least the hierarchy that is used. And so in that sense, there's even an element there. Like, forget about the human function element, but even just in terms of the Stimuli Acme, you'd be talking about like imagining something better. So like you could imagine something, fantasize about something, right? And so that would be just as satisfying to you than actually engaging in something physically. Now you could say, oh, that's just something somebody would say to cope with the fact that they can't do it in person, but you see this all the time. Like somebody who's happily married and whatever the case may be for a long period of time, but they have some sort of other fantasy or other thing that they're acting out. In other words, it's not as simple as just engaging in it or the same vanilla acts over and over. That gets kind of boring for people. So instead, they have like certain fantasies that might just be just as satisfying to them. Even just simply thinking about it can be just as exciting for them as actually doing it. So there is something to that where you don't always have to be like, you know, dependent on the physical or dependent on the immediate reactionary thing in front of you. It could also just be, you know, your imagination is so good, and this is an ability that people often sometimes fear, like, wow, that almost invalidates the whole need for a lot of things. Just if your imagination is so good and you're satisfied with that, then you don't need to be controlled by the half-assed sort of standards of society to say that, oh, you have to do it in such a way that, you know, it is very structured and controlled and things like that. Why does it seem like it's getting so bright already? No, we need this to go on for a longer time because I have to get through all these. Let's see. It couldn't be getting to morning time already. Then there's this like my dinner with Andre analogy story. Like, oh, I know this person who lived in a nudist colony and it was so open-minded for them, and it was such an objective, eye-opening sort of experience where they see all sort of the pitfalls of the Stimuli Acme within society, how like, you know, it's this sort of fake thing where people are sort of dancing around and suppressing everything all the time, and it creates sort of this imbalance that people have to overcompensate for, where so much emphasis is placed on it, whether it be positive or negative or both, right, that it's not that big of a deal, but yet people make it that big of a deal because they're constantly repressing and suppressing elements of it. And so therefore what ends up happening is the fact that you're basically in a position where you kind of like it takes away both elements of it. It takes away both the positive and the negative, where you're basically trying to, oh, it's the worst thing ever, or you can't do it in this way or that way, or you shouldn't, it's stigmatized and you shouldn't do it like this and you have to do it like this. All that stuff goes out the window in the nudist colony hypothetical example that we're talking about, because what happens is it's treated as just another fact of life. Like, oh, it's just basic natural body, whatever, like parts that everybody has, and it's not as big of a deal as what people make it out to be, right? So that sort of undue emphasis is twofold. If you just look at it that way, it does away with all the marketing angles, it does away with all the sort of repression and undue emphasis imbalance. And so what that does is, because it's just a natural, normal part of life, it makes the rest of it, the hedonistic element or whatever the case may be, sort of more normalized, so people don't have to act out in as, it's still not, I guess, full-on morning, but that was pretty fast, I guess. Why does that seem like the fastest nighttime we've ever seen? I'm almost disappointed in a way. But no, I guess we'll wait till it's like really full-on morning. But basically, yeah, so it's just the natural body, things like that people place such an emphasis on because of the elements in society that sort of repress it or hold it back. So then it creates some sort of reverse feedback loop where it becomes a bigger deal than what it actually is. And so in that scenario, it's just a normal part of life, so it's not that big of a deal, and you're not placing any special emphasis on it one way or another. So like the simple act of simply seeing, oh my goodness, like whatever, like it becomes such a big deal. Like I don't know how to explain it. You would like see somebody, whoops, something fell off or something got exposed, and it's such a big deal, and it becomes like this juvenile, primitive way of thinking that's like so, I can't think of the way to exactly describe it, right? It becomes so, like that's the only point of fixation, or it becomes such a big deal. Like, oh, haha, look at this, somebody's thing fell off and you got to see this, and that's the biggest deal and it's the end of the world, when it's really just some basic thing that everybody has that you could see every day, that it's not that big of a deal, right? So it creates this whole emphasis that's exactly sums up what the Stimuli Acme is all about. So it's like all people can think about, and a lot of social norms and things like that are obviously based around it. To be aware of it is not to be above it, of course. It doesn't mean that, it doesn't apply to oneself, or you haven't been a part of those same sort of things, but it at least does give you the awareness to maybe counteract it a little bit, or at least to say that you don't have to place as much emphasis on it. That's the main thing. Like, it's not as big of a deal, and you don't have to make it like, you break up and, oh, it's the end of the world, or everything in your life revolves around that one situation or that one person, or even, just the whole basis of it is not as big of a deal, or it doesn't have to be as people make it out to be. Then there's like the whole, this you see a lot in these YouTube shorts of fucking wannabe podcaster clowns, like where it's like this whole sugar daddy culture, or OF, or whatever the case may be. So in this sense, the idea, this is literally how we could power level the level 100. We'll just turn it into an just chatting category and just sit here the whole time. If that was any other kind of dinosaur, that could be a scary approach that it's making. Or I guess you could just keep your door shut, so you don't have to see that. I mean, it's still technically night, but it feels more like the morning. I swear to God, that feels like the shortest night we've ever seen. So the whole sugar culture you could debunk this way, the idea that, oh, women, whatever, we're saying it in a general hypothetical sense. Like there's a stereotype, oh, like some women are gold diggers, or whatever the case may be. But the problem with that is it's a two-way street, right? So you don't have to buy into that idea literally, right? The idea that, oh, it's like a cynical transactional perspective that you can have, like, oh, one person has money and the other person has looks, so the two kind of equal each other out, so they both bring something to the table. But if you don't reward somebody for that in that way, and that standard isn't established in society, then it won't be as effective, so then it won't work. So it's like you have to, it's a two-way street. Just because, oh, you could assume, oh, this person's a gold digger, but that doesn't mean you have to give into that and actually give them what they want. So if you didn't do that, right, so you blame them, like, oh, it's their fault for being greedy or whatever, or materialistic, but it's the guy's fault, assuming whatever the scenario, it's their fault for giving into that or going along with it. So you could just easily have like a few standards that would easily prevent that. Like, number one, keep your finances separate, so it doesn't matter in that case, right? You each fend for yourself that way. Number two is you could only pursue people in the same wealth class as you if it's that big of a deal, then they couldn't possibly be pursuing it. Obviously, those situations change throughout the course of time and maybe the course of relationships, so it might be hard to measure that. But generally speaking, right, if you're a wealthy person, you don't have to pursue somebody who isn't, so then you'd never have to complain about that. I don't like when you see their nameplate there, because it almost feels like maybe it treats it like I'm trying to tame it, and then it'll take it as an act of aggression. That was kind of scary how he clipped through the thing there just to look at me. So what else is there? So yeah, it's a two-way street. So you can blame the people, again, buying into it literally the same way that you blame people for expecting it, because how can you blame them? It's like, oh, you're somebody who's subjectively considered mildly attractive, whatever the case may be, and somebody wealthy comes along and is willing to go into that. It's like, why would you say no to that? You know what I mean? So if it's something that's available, people are going to pursue it. And it's the same thing with the OF idea. It's like people are buying into it, so don't just blame the people, you know, benefiting from it. Blame the people who are creating that sort of supply and demand dynamic where, you know, clearly they want it or they're willing to do that. So again, you could you could deal with that by saying, again, keep the finances separate in that situation, or, you know, pursue only people in the same class as you, assuming that this is that big of an issue for people. Or number three is you could just I forgot what the third one was supposed to be, like I don't know, just like don't make it about that, where that's not a dynamic that's relevant. Like, be aware of it. Like, people will be like, oh, you were in a relationship with somebody for years and then you call that person a gold digger. It's like, you should have known that from the beginning, that you know going in, right, because that's something you have or whatever, right, you're successful or you have more money than them. You know that that could be a factor in it, so you shouldn't be so surprised. And so you should always keep that in mind, and I don't know, just be aware that that's a motivating factor. What were some of these other terms, like pleasure as a measure, the measure of like life, and sort of there's a whole dynamic here. Like most of what people value in life is like zero-sum sustenance, like just mistaking means as meaning, like, oh, you're eating food or you're doing whatever basic things like that. So they mistake that as like, oh, that's just them surviving in a base sense, but because, oh, it's become so extrapolated and pleasurable or something like that, like, oh, eating good food. So now you take something that's merely zero-sum sustenance and you turn it into something that people mistake as meaning or more valuable on its own, just because it's in a better state. So it goes from simply you're eating to survive to, oh, you're eating because it tastes good, and now you mistake that as some other. It's going to be ironic if one of these actually dies to the fire of entry, because of how many times they go around here over and over and keep doing that. You mistake means as meaning, but you also could mistake sort of pleasure and hedonism as some higher absolute standard and meaning of life that way, the way that people would look at it, like, you know, nature's way of inspiring reproduction is that doing so, engaging in those sort of acts, is pleasurable. And so because of the human ego and how much people have to make everything revolve around them, it can't simply be that, oh, the same way that animals are encouraged to do that, to reproduce or whatever the case may be, and therefore it's pleasurable to inspire that. It's the same in people. Oh no, it's not simply them practicing that reproductive process. It's some other worldly, above and beyond absolute thing that people create, because again, their ego is so big that everything has to revolve around them. And we could go into some sort of religious connotation with that too, how they think, oh, the whole universe has to revolve around them and their standards, and it has to be some sort of divine decree that you would do all the things that people don't want you to do or want you to do, like, you know, what's reflected in law and all morality. It must be some divine above standard. So it's the same thing here. It couldn't simply be some natural process that you're engaging in some base inherent tendency and some form of hedonism. It must be glorified into an absolute because of people's own obsession with themselves and that standard. So now, what else? There's like some sort of overextension with it, one size fits all, like how people are so insecure and overly aggressive towards like open relationships and things like that. Like, nobody's saying you have to be in one, but anytime somebody is in one, especially in a conspicuous public sense, people will sort of attack it or criticize it. You saw a lot of that with Destiny and other people, like, where, you know, they're not necessarily telling you that that's the right way to do it, but it sort of exposes some sort of insecurity with one's own measure, that they feel like they have to attack someone else's, someone doing something else, because if they don't, then they feel like what they're doing is being called into question, like, people are unhappy with their own relationship or their own, single partner structure that they've been indoctrinated into. So it's like they have to justify the cognitive dissonance, like, oh, I would like to be in that situation too, with an open relationship or whatever the case may be. But I have to somehow justify it and pretend like, oh no, I like what I'm doing, or I'm not insecure about it. And so therefore I'll criticize it somehow as being either unviable or somehow morally wrong or something like that. So I feel self-righteous about it to justify the fact that, oh, I would like to do it anyway, but I have to somehow trick myself into thinking that I wouldn't like it. So there's a tremendous amount of insecurity with that. And again, one standard sort of overextends itself, right? Like single partner people would take issue with open relationships, but open relationship people might not care. They'll just say, well, it doesn't matter, just do whatever you want, right, if that makes you happy. But it's like this need to sort of overextend and attack something else to justify your own standard, right? Reinforcement through externality and sort of ridiculing anything that's different. And again, the whole like one size fits all situation with that, the idea that you would be in a position where, maybe it works for some people, maybe it doesn't for other people, so it's just preference. But it makes no sense to say that, oh, it's categorically good or it's categorically bad. Like some people can handle it, some people can't. Some people would want it, some people don't. Like some of these things are said way too broadly, even in just general of like, oh, men are such and such or women are such and such, when there's like 4 billion of each in the world. It's like, it's not even like some sort of self-righteous standard to say, oh, you can't generalize people like that. It's just more like lazy and stupid. Like no matter what you're saying about them, whether it's positive or negative or anything, it's not going to be applicable because that's just way too broad of a sample size to do that. So there's nothing that you could say, right, that would apply that broadly the way that people tried to do it. And this is sort of the reproductive stimuli acme element to say that anything sort of mass produced suffers in quality. That could be true of anything: products, education, assembly line things that people make, right? So the more it's mass produced, it's not being done because it's the highest quality thing. It's just being done because there's so many people and so much demand for it. So they're just churning it out. And so the same thing can be seen as far as what the stimuli acme does to life itself. The idea that people treat it as such a overextended commodity, like where there's 8 billion people in the world, like overpopulation that people talk about. The idea with that basically being that there's a sort of a lack of value of life that shows that people wouldn't so flippantly or so extremely have engaged in that situation if they actually had an inherent value for it. Because again, the more that you're having, everything becomes overextended. So much in society is done not because it's actually done for some inherent valuable standard, but because it's overextended. In other words, to account for the mass number of people, right? So it's simply to keep people in line. And so you sacrifice some inherent innate experience or lifestyle or choices and abilities that you would normally have. You sacrifice that simply because there's so many people around, which was a choice and which was a process that was done within this whole idea that basically you're not treating it with the absolute value that it has, where each, like the village of 100 concept, right, where so many things would not be necessary in a village of 100 that are necessary, even if you want to say you benefit from it, machination process, all of that, technology and certain benefits that way. A lot of restrictions and things that are taken for granted and even treated as like a moral high standard are not really the case because it wouldn't be necessary in that scenario, right? So it's only necessary because there's so many people in the first place in that hypothetical scenario. So we're talking about like also the idea that, what else? I guess I missed more than a few things in that discussion yesterday, so this was kind of justified to do. It's gonna go to fucking nighttime again, so maybe I won't even bother building my house, but at least I have it ready to take with me. And I recovered my spirit quantity here too. So basically, that Triceratops was kind of scaring me. That's why I actually left my house. It actually says the time of day, doesn't it? Day 18, time 10:12. So it must be like 10:12 in the morning now. So what else? Yeah, anything mass-produced suffers in quality. So again, it's this sort of overextension principle in society that so many of the things you have to sacrifice or give up or restrict yourself or all these kind of rules and things that exist, is like the more people there are, the more everything becomes overextended, where it becomes farther and farther from some sort of innate base experience, just because people are treated as some sort of inherent negative where they have to be restrained and controlled and restricted in some way. So the more that you have that, the more people get restricted, and it's sort of like a net negative to the extent that there's no limit to what people are going to have, what number of people there are going to be in that regard. So there has to be some sort of self-aware sort of choice that you make to value it a little more and not to do it so flippantly, right? So that's the whole standard with anything, is that anything mass produced is going to be over time just hurt and hurt more. And that's one of the primary principles of the Stimuli Acme, that it'll make people weaker and worse over time the more that it's done, from that hypothetical observer's perspective from outer space, like this godlike being that's looking at people, that it's like a way to control or diminish them, that like they'll do it to themselves with no regard and no stopping, and again treat these standards that are simply reactionary to the number of people as instead like an absolute that's somehow desired or inherent or some like moral absolute thing. And then you know, looking down on it like, oh, it's the stuff of animals, pleasure, the human ego, sort of buffering it into something more. Again, the insecurity that people have with open relationships. Okay, we already did some of these. Half-mass hedonism is a byproduct, like the idea that it's not a consistent standard. So even if you are engaging it in a self-aware sense, it's like you see all these flaws that trickle into it, because like, oh, high divorce rates or people cheating and things like this, these are all byproducts of practicing it at half-mast. So either you recognize it as hedonism and you say, okay, we're just doing it for fun, so then you wouldn't care that much and there wouldn't be those kind of issues, or you treat it as, oh, it is an absolute and it is specified, but then those things wouldn't occur. So it's invalidating in one sense or the other. Either you have to decide what it actually is and define sort of the measure and then practice it consistently, right, and hold it accountable if it is indeed a false absolute or not a false absolute. Then the two scenarios, either it is an absolute and those things wouldn't happen, right? You wouldn't have divorces, you wouldn't have a high divorce rate, things like that. And that's the same way that people would disqualify, like, oh, this open relationship ended badly in this public sort of way, that people would clown on destiny or something like that. But then people don't do that with other, oh, so therefore single partner relationships are invalidated because, oh my goodness, there's a high divorce rate. Like, that's not a good measure of it. So it calls into question the measure that's being used, right, that people themselves can't decide upon. If that really is their measure, then there would be no conflict or issue within it. Or if there is some other standard that's being used, even that's being practiced halfway, right? Like half-mass hedonism is a term that we would always use, just like you're not sure what you really want. Society wants you to be with one person, you want to be with multiple, or you want to, you know, you don't know what you want, and then you end up cheating or something like that. So it's kind of a conflict between the individual inherent sort of tendencies that you might have versus what you're expected or indoctrinated or pressured to do within society. Like, oh, it's good to do it this way just because that's easier for society to control, or whatever the case may be, encourage family system, thing like that. So it's encouraged in that, in contrast to the inherent nature and tendency that people would naturally have. So the whole moral basis there is like the reason why things are called bad in a moral sense historically, if you look at it, is often because those are exactly the sort of things that people would do. So you're kind of acknowledging that either what you're saying is people are inherently bad by those standards, or the reason why you're calling those things bad in the first place is because people would inherently naturally do them. So you have to call them bad to counteract that and stigmatize them and obviously punish them through enforcement and law, etc. But you do that in reaction to the state of inherent man. So that was a term that was used a lot, inherent man, just to show like these are all the things that people would naturally do, and so therefore we have to react to them. So it's sort of this false inherent that, oh, it's inherently bad to do such and such, not that people would inherently do it, and so therefore we call it bad because of that as a reaction to it, and then, you know, create law and order and things like that. And then finally, this was sort of the most valuable piece of proof for the Stimuli Acme, is the idea that most humor, most music, most profanity all has to do with it, right? So if you look at song lyrics, most song lyrics have to do with sex or romance or something of the sort, probably 75+%, right? Because that's like the highest standard, and that's all people can think about within this art form and all these amazing things that you can create. It all comes back down to that, as the majority of it is something either romantic or sexual. Most humor also refers to it that way. Again, you can think of no higher measure, and that reflects to cognitive dissonance too, that sort of all the standards that are sort of forced and indoctrinated upon people that are treated as absolute, you have to almost joke about them, or the fact that you can is kind of the cognitive dissonance coming out. The idea that that's what most comedy is just the exposure of that it's some standard that you know objectively or have some sort of second thoughts about that is coming out and being exposed, but yet you still practice it and don't question it as an absolute. So comedy kind of fits in that middle ground where you're laughing almost in an uncomfortable way that sort of invalidates certain aspects of sort of an indoctrinated contrivance state that is unquestioned otherwise. So it gives you sort of this free reign to question it for a period of time. So then you would have this ability to basically, you know, expose all those things that are treated as false absolutes, but you can finally, in that setting, sort of call them absolute. So again, most comedy has to deal with it. Most music has to do with it. Lyrics, most profanity has to do with it. So it's always a highest measure that is being obsessed with, which again, this is an extension on a lot of ideas by Sigmund Freud, the same idea, this sort of obsessive nature that people have with it. And then finally, it requires like some sort of constant contrivance and reinforcement through externality, to the extent that you know, like you're constantly saying something over and over, like an idol of worship concept, that you have to do all these ritualistic things. You have a wedding ring, you have these ceremonies, you have these anniversaries, you have these events, these days. You have to keep saying I love you all the time, all these kind of things, right? Getting gifts and all that. And you might think, oh, that's natural and normal, but it flies in the face of the absolute that is posed, like, oh, this is an absolute. But therefore, if it was absolute, then why would you need to constantly reinforce it like that and remind yourself of it every day, almost as if to convince yourself, not just the other person? And the fact that you're constantly reinforcing it, it's one of two things. If it was absolute, you wouldn't need to keep doing that. But if it's not absolute, then why specify it when you would have the ability to do it overall in the same open relationship sense or the overextended sense, right? So it's one of two things. You have to restrict it to one person only, because that's what society wants you to do. But then you have to pose it as an absolute to justify it to yourself, in the same sort of hedonistic inherent tendency and the egotism of it, to say that, oh, it's actually something that you want. You want to be restricted in the way that you are because you somehow like it and because it's somehow an absolute. So you do that to sort of bypass the critical factor, to say that, oh, there is no cognitive dissonance. I actually want to specify it this way, even though I have to keep reinforcing it, thereby showing it's not an absolute. I have to convince myself constantly that it is an absolute, and therefore a lot of the conflict of contrivance comes out because of it that way. And you see those signs and sort of symptoms of it. So this is something that I should have fit into the thing yesterday, but these are all good discussions we had before. I almost wish I still had that format, that I wouldn't feel the need to do it in situations like this, but basically we weren't trying to do anything here anyway. So I'll build my house kind of further down the beach a little bit next time. But no, I almost want to combine that with the thing from yesterday, just so I can show, like, that was part of the discussion that deserves to be kind of chronicled there. This guy's stuck in such a way that maybe you could actually kill him, but I would never do that. We've had a pretty good alliance with the Triceratops, where I even left his egg alone and stuff like that. So this is what it looks like in the morning, where it looks like very eerie in the sky. Like it is some sort of ash cloud that's happening after the fucking meteor strike or something. Yeah, that last one is just a constant contrivance, sort of holding a false absolute absolutely accountable. The idea that, again, that term I used specifically with religion in particular, that you pose it as an absolute, but then you don't hold it accountable to be one. And then also the idea that basically, you know, it requires constant reinforcement and all these sort of ritualistic tendencies, which indicate its non-absolute state, but then it's still upheld as one, to sort of bypass the rational basis and cognitive dissonance of why you're specifying it and why you're holding it as such a emphasis. Because if you didn't do that, then you could look at it like people would run amok with this sort of hedonism, that there would be no rhyme or reason or limit to it. So then you're adhering to a few different standards, such as the nearness postulate, and then turning that nearness postulate into an absolute, like, oh, somebody happens to be in the same area as you, and then you turn that into an absolute that can't be questioned, as if you couldn't say, out of all the people in the world, what are the chances? Oh, they happen to be right in the same area as you. you're trying to rationalize it to the self that you're saying that, okay, you're posing it as an absolute, even though you would know better. So that's where the cognitive dissonance comes into it. So this is, let's keep looking at what time it actually is. So we got to level 45 at least. So now I have no excuse not to explore, like on the next episode at least. 14 would mean it's like 2 o'clock, right? That doesn't even make sense. This is supposed to be in the middle of the day. This is not the middle of the night. I don't know why that night just felt so short. Okay, well, because I was kind of rambling on about that, but it ended kind of even before I got into it, really. That was kind of surprising. The one time I want the night to feel like it was long, so I could fit in all that shit. Okay, see you tomorrow.